Hello, everybody. How are you doing? And we are here with the ESA Cup Qualifiers Group 1. I am here with Puffo Bob. Puffo, welcome. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. While though it is a bit more into the afternoon for me over there, Piercing, it's quite early for you, so I hope you woke up. I hope the caffeine is starting to hit, and because you said it, it's ESA
Caffeine.
season 10, not 6. The X is coming out, but in the meanwhile, there are going to be three best of ones we're having, and today is a special day because it's not only a Saturday, beautiful morning for you, especially Piercing, and at the same time,
Oh,
these are the
yep.
last qualifiers we're having today, and I'm excited to get into them.
Yeah, I sure am as well, but it is a little bit bittersweet for me because, as you all know, I'm North American and it's so good to be back. It's been a while since I've gotten to work with the ESA, but unfortunately, with it being the final season and because I work on weekdays, because, typical American, right? So this will unfortunately be my last one for ESA. After that, I'm done and I'm out most likely, unless another weekend stream comes up, which is not looking to be the case. So I'm looking forward to getting into this. But let's kind of talk a little bit about what we've got going on, as well as the map bans. For this first game, it's going to be Frequency versus Aspire, and the map decider is going to be Border, with Aspire starting on the attack and Frequency on the defense. So, Puffa Bob, what do you think of Border going to be our first BO1 here? I like that it's not the classic three, but I mean, is there anything in particular that you're going to be looking for on this first matchup?
Let's be honest. We want something to wake us up. We want something to get us riled and a bit more excited for the following matches. And what better way is it to do it than with some good old fashioned Border? Now, why it's fashioned is because guns, Rainbow Six Siege, it's an FPS, right? People like shooting, and Border is the perfect place to test your gun skills and aim ability. Although strategy plays a bit into it, but let's just toss out that for the window because right now, Border, the most aggressive map I'd call it, is going to be in play. And for a best of one, this is where teams are going to get aggressive and really dicey with it because most of the time, people want to take their chances. High risk, high reward. That's the map the name
Mm-hmm.
is. And in the meanwhile, I mean, we have both of the teams up in the lobby. We're starting to get them ready. We ourselves are ready. I hope everyone watching is too, because again, Piercing, it's all down to the wire for each of these teams. While though, qualifying to get yourself up and as fast as possible is great and all, but again, in a best of one format, there's no second chances. These rounds, you need to make them count.
Yeah, no, you absolutely really do. But it looks like teams are ready to go. So let's send it into Border for map one, game one.
Just like it. Game number one underway. Love to see a bit of that ESA transition. The cinematics here we get to see. This is what we call top notch quality. And with it, well, into the operator bands into any second. And what we can expect here, honestly, I'm saying run of the mill Monty Ban, run of the mill Blackbeard. Get the shields out of here. Leave Blitz for granted if that's going to be any team saving grace. But when we talk about the defense, Piercing, is there anything you personally could expect?
I'm definitely foreseeing an Azami. Long lines of sights. You have an Azami that allows for further custom tailoring to make an initial building entry near impossible. That you can come to expect. Although, if playing it a bit safer, we could possibly see a Fenrir ban as well. So I'm not expecting anything too outstanding. Yes, we're on a not so typical map for qualifiers, but then again, we're in the later stages of this, so that does explain that. Wow, a Grim ban. What are you thinking about that, Puffle Bob? I'll admit, I'll be the first one to say that caught me a little bit off guard.
Definitely did, because it leaves other powerhouses up for entry. But Grim, honestly, with how much denial there is for this operator, and again, those bees sting quite well, and when you want to peek out, and it's especially because post plants on Border are absolutely brutal, Grim just puts a nice little piece of salt on it, rubs some salt on the wound, and we talk about bans. Well, Capkin's going to be another one that's going to be a bit more interesting. Recently, he did get that C4 removed, so as well with it, I guess these teams just don't like the big booms, but overall, we have one more standing in the line for the big bingo card to show up, and that's going to be none other than the Mira coming out, another strong operator. Now, on Border, there's a lot of options you could go with. Mira, Fenrir, Valkyrie, Zami, just you name it. And honestly, you can't predict it too well. It's down to the teams and how necessarily compatible they are with certain characters, but we have our lineup. And in the meanwhile, it leaves many options such as the Monty, such as the so-called Zami, maybe even a bit of castle action, and the Goyo, which has been having a bit of an uprising in the comp scene.
Yeah, and I mean, from Frequency Esports, having a Grim and a Capcan out the window is certainly not what I was expecting, to say the least. Mainly just because I don't feel that they have that same level of veracity as other operators that are commonly banned. Heck, I'll be even saying the same with MG Aspire having the Mira ban. I mean, I get it, right? For some of us older birds like myself, Mira was absolutely terrifying, especially during the peak of the utility meta, but we are far away from that timeline. So I do have to wonder what is making Mira bans still to this day so persistent. I mean, you can still melee them, you can send out an Ash charge or Kali. There's a lot of options now available to get rid of it. I mean, you even have Zaka on the Ash as well, so it's not like you would have had that much of an impact in that regard. So I have to wonder what the mentality is, especially when you have to consider one of the biggest changes that's really came to Siege is the fact that Jaeger really isn't used all that much anymore, or nowhere near as much as he used to be, which is still a change that blows my mind the more I say it out loud. Yeah, it's certainly a pick ban that's a little bit overstated. But with that being said, we are seeing a little bit of that immediate close to building denial. You've got a Goyo on the break room door. Heavy investment towards blocking these players off for as long as humanly possible.
Just like you said. Now, the perfect counter to the Izami, of course, we have the floors. Bring Twitch drones as well, and the Goyos out of your path. Now, Frequency Esports, although they are being shut down utility-wise, they themselves are not backing off of any gunfight, still sticking to the routes, holding down CC and opening it up, as Disrupt there with the UMP-45, the opening bullets, and MG Aspire are losing out on one of your graded assets when it comes down to that soft breach. The Ash still going to be there. Do find yourself some early shots, but it's Disrupt to get taken out. A late trade knife put in his back. Now we have a 1-to-1 equal out on the man count, down onto the ace, but similar situation when it comes down to the Izami, walks right in front of the bullets, and that's a line of sight established. A couple extra bleed drops. Frequency Esports find themselves on the back line, tucked up into a corner, but now one that they want to be spotted in. No pickup on the ace yet, going to be interesting, as the diffuser is also itself found on the ground. But Frequency, again, you've managed to get the opening, but then you've dropped the ball quite quickly.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was kind of natural that would happen. You saw Frequency Esports investing very heavily into denying MG Aspire any building presence. And once it got in, you were bound to see bloodshed. And we're going to see Shun getting caught. That's going to be, or Slun, thanks to Zaka, going to be able to secure that pick. That would be huge in granting office access. Zaka going down as well. That's going to be to Zowie as well, bringing it 2-3 as MG Aspire makes massive grounds towards office, and it's now time to push towards archives. They do have the spot. They know there's one close. There's the corner clear. That's going to be coming in from Shimizu, able to take that. That's the double kill coming through. 50 seconds now on the clock. Nighty going to be the last one to try to save this. Does the call with the Nitro. Does it connect? It does. Taking Shimizu down. Going to be able to finish that. Oh, that was not the Nitro pick. That was the gunfight close into security. Diffuser now going to be going down. We'll have to deal with one close and one behind Diffuser, but they do have the information. There's a swing, and Casper going to be able to shut that down.
Just like it. Around into the hands of MG Aspire, as their aggression definitely came out to be strong. Frequency weren't necessarily playing the right corners. We had people just running across, being completely discombobulated, holding corners that shouldn't be held, and overall exposing themselves a bit too much, although the opening is definitely some credit we can give, because in the end, you know, the opening is always great to have to establish some sort of great pressure in the early beginning, but when it comes down to it, MG Aspire, their end was more than just dominant. It was nothing short of greatness. They brought it back, they played their cards correctly. Some 1v1s towards the end allowed the Bandit to get a pick of 2 just for that complimentary kill, but in the end, Frequency picked it back up and lost it just like it. MG Aspire, first one. Not much else than a slap on the wrist here for the defensive side. They are going to be giving it a second shot on this top floor and seeing how they can go with it. Now, when it comes down to lineups, they are definitely not switching it at all. We have the complete similar ones, the Goyo Castle, Bandit, Frost, and Azami all alike, and a similar position as well, just hoping to maybe switch out how you want to make your footing count.
Well, and here's the big picture that we saw from that round playing out. The intel game coming in from MG Aspire was extremely strong towards the end. I mean, you saw a lot of confirmed picks nightly. I think you saw that for Slun as well. Just a lot of information. You certainly saw it on Kawi as well. There was just no hiding anywhere for Frequency Esport, and they don't have a mute or anything like that to try to catch those players out, which is kind of what's scary, is how much drones are coming out, how much information they're getting, and being helpless to stop it. Ooh, a little bit of whiff onto the Flores drone. Looking to find some additional piece of utility to catch up, but doesn't look like they'll be able to spot anything. That'll be from Kazuto. And this is kind of what I'm talking about, this intel game and the rapid breakdown of utility is what MG Aspire is doing so well. And that's where Frequency Esports might run into a problem. A lot of dependency on util, but it's getting burnt too fast, and they're just outright getting spotted on numerous occasions, allowing for a full-on flush.
What I've been loving here from MG Aspire is that they've been quick on the act. In the very beginning, they get in the building and secure their spots, the ones that are free at least, and claim free real estate. But Frequency Esport, again, holding their ground. CC completely covered. A back off towards 90. Niyazami does get away with her life. But in the meanwhile, breaches are coming out imminently. There's still a minute on 40 for the attackers to make push. And that's going to be nothing short of just a lot of time on your deck and hands. Now, as we talk about it, Aspire, you have gained much, but much more is to be given. And I believe we're going to start approaching the beginning of the end. 90 controlled, Fountain looking to have some sort of progression. There is a bit of a rotation behind the Azami, but the best attempts are being made to control over not only the lines of sight, but how much connections are being made. MG Aspire starting it off a bit differently than the prior round into it, with a double of their own, but a double almost returned, a down but not confirmed. Gonna be huge here. Frequency lost out on quite an opportunity. Disrupt and Knightley, the only one left to standing, down onto the floors. Hopefully you pick him up because each gun matters. And in the meanwhile, you find yourself quite encumbered, as also stuck up into a corner of none other than A-Site.
Yeah, this is looking a lot more dire. They had one. That was Yowzy all on her own, trying to stop that office push, but it was unsuccessful, going for the plant. Nitro comes out from below, but does it connect? It doesn't look like they've set it off because it was just too little too late. Does get it off, but just missed time, as Knightley will be able to take Carol down. That's with the Nitro. Now in the post-plant situation, we're going to see Knightley go down after the walk-up. As Goody thinks a great positioning coming from Kazuto to take another in turn as well.
All of a sudden, the attackers really putting the insinuation on guns, as they definitely have the artillery to back it up. Although Frequency Esports, there's definitely been loopholes, or rather gaps, you could have punished and capitalized off of, yet you just don't take them. The greatest mistake we've seen from the side of defense, although hopefully they're going to be able to back it up with a switch of side as well. Bathroom and tellers is what we're going to be going towards. Now the arrow pointing in a different direction, a bit more vertical one at that, and the upper ground is what we need to establish. Now we see the castle, so you know it's always the common strategy to extend over towards Workshop as well. Play around it with a Vigil on deck. Going to be an interesting pick from Kiwi. Also the Malusi. Love to see the Operator every now and then, but the Roamer pick being the Mazi, the supposed support when it comes to the top floor extension. I love the Pests. Again, a mute would be nice to see every now and then, but denying drones is here what is max, because again, MG Aspire have been good on their drone work. They get drones in quickly, they see what's open, they take it as fast as they can, and they let no opportunity slide. And well, what's a better way to counteract those drones than the Mazi on the roam?
Oh yeah, no, the Mozzie is certainly going to be a big adaptation that I think will help Frequency. Having a little bit of drone denial, especially with Cowie on the Vigil as well. That's going to help so much to try to deny what presence has been so favorable for MG Aspire, having that information. But there's also the crossfire situation, like we saw with Office, just not having that support. The last thing you want is for a player to be all alone, unsupported. Once that happens, you're in a dire situation, because all it takes on border is for one player to be displaced and all hell breaks loose. And that's the thing that you have to really watch out for, is who is going to be that first to crumble on either side. And so far, both has been Frequency who has fallen due to great crossplay coming in from MG Aspire. Oh my gosh, no! Slun just got caught right out the open. That's going to be thanks to Kazuto's early opening pick. That's a big loss coming in for Frequency Esports. And that's also intel denial out as well. Counter droning, not going to happen.
A bit of a shame again. Frequency lose out on that Mazi, not even drones needed. With a bit of help from the R4C coming in close and personal, MG Aspire again take lead on the top floor. Now, a Vigil has had to retreat and force his way into ventilation, and the Demo is now going to be one of the strongest operators for the attackers to utilize simply because there is a larger amount of players on your side rather than on frequencies, and balance is starting to slowly tip in the favor of the attackers yet again. We've seen this situation many times. History is about to repeat itself for a third if frequency don't change it up. Verticals coming out here, a fuse wouldn't be too bad of an idea, yet again, especially to counter out those Melusi's castles and whatever not to push people out of comfort zones, but the Ram does the job just as well. A zombie buries your C1, that pixel going to be working real nice, but Kiva the first one to drop some extra pounds of blood, and now backing off into a corner, and this is the strength that I'm talking about. MG Aspire are always so strong in putting up a presence that just cannot be fought against.
Yep, and now there's even the Hunt coming in as well. The Heartbeat charge coming in. A little bit of aggression trying to counteract it, but Zaka will be able to catch Yazzie. That's with the nade. Disrupt taking Kazuto. That's going to be some immediate on-site displacement. That's going to be massive to get this done. There's the drop. The pick goes down, or the down onto Zaka, but Casper will be perfectly timed to be able to pick that up as well. Knightley going down, looking dire. Kawi gonna have to walk up towards lobby, but he's caught by Carol, as it's gonna be a clean sweep on site for MG Aspire. You can extend all you want, but it doesn't mean it stops them from coming to site.
You put a barricade up and, well, MG Aspire, the one to break it down. That's what I'm liking. But Frequency Esport doesn't seem to have caught on to the act yet. 3 rounds in a row, and in FPS tradition, they should be able to return those 3. That's how the Rainbow Six Siege curse goes, at least. But will they be ones to step up to the task, or allow MG Aspire to go 4-2, 5-1, or even 6-0 if everything goes their way? Now, those are some questions we need answers to, but until we get them right now, Frequency on the backbone and starting to show a bit less work off of it, not going to be the best. Now, the defense is going to be switching out some characters. Absolutely love the use of the Valkyrie and how sometimes players do tend to be quite low on HP going into the final fights. The addition of the Doctor, the medic of Rainbow Six Siege, will be absolutely phenomenal with a bit of Legion for extra information, as yet again, I love the switch up of the lineup here. It shows that Frequency have taken into account that they don't need ground because they can't necessarily hold it too comfortably. What they need is information and comfortability when going into 1v1s or any type of gunfight.
Yeah, there's been a lot of chip damage coming onto Frequency Esports, so I do like seeing the Doc pick because that's going to allow them to sustain these little peaks for even more information without getting too heavily punished, as long as they're not getting their head blasted off. And that's kind of what you need, right? A little bit more sight sustain. We've tried the building denial aspect, and it, unfortunately for Frequency, just has not succeeded. You still got one holding close by. That's going to be Yazzie going for a little bit of building denial, but as we've seen before, that usually doesn't last long. Gets a little bit too zealous with the run out. Carol going to take that with a Claymore. That's going to be already a big loss coming in for Frequency. That's active utility that's no longer available to them. And the pings are already coming out yet again. The information matrix on MG Aspire still holds true and strong.
True and strong it does, but we need a bit more strength to come out from Frequency. They've been looking a bit more weak on their own defense, and this should be the more cozied up site. If MG Aspire do get comfortability and comfort, I call it, when we switch over to the second half, Frequency, that tempo is going to be offset any second, and well, like the name indicates, the Frequency will no longer stand. Pushing up, gunfights ready to initiate, warning shots coming out, no blood dropped yet, but just as I speak of it, a trade between the teams, although the attacks still keep up some sort of profit. Legion Goose will be stalling out an extra couple bunch, but seconds are not an issue for Frequency, they're an issue for Aspire, and if they don't waste them nicely, wasting is not a thing that's in their vocabulary. They get a second one traded. Wow. The Doc has been absolutely fantastic, but MG Aspire trade 3 for 1, and that's the 4th round in their arsenal.
Yeah, this execute potential of MG Aspire has just been way too strong, and it's causing them quite a lot of issues. I mean, you could see here, this is where it really broke down. You had your Archives player, that was Knightley, but again, there was just not the backup that needed to happen, resulting in that strong flush towards security. It just seems like you have 2 separate islands. Yes, you have 2 separate sites to defend, but that doesn't mean there is no interconnectedness. That's just the wrong mentality to go about it. And this is already putting them on the bind here, as they're now at a 4-round disadvantage. Even if they win the next 2 rounds, they're still going to be in a considerable disadvantage. And correct me if I'm mistaken, I do believe the attacker-defender metaphor border is quite heavily skewed towards defense. So when you're at a 4-round lead or disadvantage on your defense, I mean, MG Spire has been so consistent on their crossplay and their attack, as well as their intel in Utah. Just everything going great for them, really. But, I mean, when you are on the defense and you're that far down, I would be hard-pressed to not say that spells trouble.
Yes, it does. It does spell trouble. Oh, and the spelling is correct. For now, MG Spire are winning the spelling bee. Holy, a note to 4. Are you kidding me? Defense is about to be brutal unless both of these teams are attacker favored. But comes out the spawn beacon. Yes, you can't get away with it. What a shot to begin it off. And taking out the ace of all operators, leaving the hard breach for the Hibana to handle. Oh, those large-scale breaches are not going to be coming through as the Selmas could have delivered. But it's a great start for Frequency, at least something to begin off of. And the race has not yet been ran. But for now, we need to see how this continues. Yet again, we've seen Frequency on the other step, but that type of consistency has not always been kept.
Yeah, that is a really big start coming in for Frequency, and a sorely needed one as well. Yes, like you said, there's still Hibana, but that still introduces a tempo slowdown, and that could be all that Frequency needs to really start putting the pinch onto MG Aspire, as they're going to be more spread out, and their cross-play potential isn't going to be as strong in lieu of that development. And we're already seeing a little bit of push towards Archives. Cowie trying to hold off Carol here. That's going to be the Hibana. Gets this pick, and that is going to be crisis mode coming in for MG Aspire. Another player down, hard breach missing, but it does look like they're going to try to establish a further line of sight to pinch Cowie down, but you still have Knightley supporting. That's going to be the Fenrir to hold off this push. Matter now is they have Archives, but what are they going to be able to do with it in order to take the vertical control?
The matter at hand, you called it, but it's a matter of time. MG Aspire again, great push, but not as fast as earlier. Happened to slow down quite a tiny bit. The C4 comes out, does not claim any victims, shrapnel onto no damage, and Frequency still steeping down all the way to victory for now. It has been sticking to business, and business they stood on. Valkyrie cameras being spotted as that IQ comes out to be quite a fruitous pick. But in the meanwhile, 5 on 1, 4 on the other. Math is working in the side of Frequency Esport, and numbers are against Aspire, as now they're trying to prep up for this execution, and Vent Window is where we could be headed, but not too quite sure. We have to make a bit of extra steps before we can confirm it through, and we need to do that fast. Spotting out the footsies, but you don't connect a single bullet. It's a travesty. But in the meanwhile, thankfully, Knightley does just back off in time. But that fire, oh, it burns bright, and so does the passion for MG Aspire to keep up this flawless lead.
Yeah, I mean, so far, even though they've lost one player initially, they haven't lost anyone since, and they're not really showing any signs of stopping. They haven't been really held up, but 18 seconds, they're going to have to get more executes and picks coming out. Disrupt does go down. That's going to be thanks to Zaka, but has to get more presence onto site. No Nitros available as they're all down. Zaka going to be able to take another. They do have direct on-site presence, but Cowie and Slun are going to be able to put up a pretty furious front, able to take 2 down in turn, but Diffuser does go down. There's the pushback. Oh, but Casper does manage to take Howie, but Yazzie will get Carol down, and that's going to put it to a 1v2. Casper, now down to extremely low HP, does get into the outside position. This is the power position to hold outside of Diffuser, but it's not exactly that strong, especially when you can play it from the other room to try to defuse. That's going to put him on a bit of a bind here, as he's not going to have a line of sight and still has to deal with Yazzie. Goes for the run-in, does catch one, catches Schlun is down! Oh my gosh, Casper manages to take them both! What?
Casper, G-O-A-T, is what his name should be. MG Aspire, get away with too much at this point. Frequency Esport, what the absolute... I wish I had a soundboard so I could bleep up my own curses. But holy, a 0-5 in that condition? Might as well give off the 7-0. A 2-1. Low HP Casper, who only has one way of entry. He's not going to be going main door. You have the information, the audio cue. The Valkyrie needs a hip fire pre-shot. And it's all done. But this player not only got a hipfire headshot on the side from ventilation when trying to push back, but even winning in a 1v2, the diffuser being in the last few moments, he manages to pull out the natural 20. And Frequency Esport, there is not a single other universe, no alternate reality where MG Aspire get away with it. Call it bad luck, call it fate, but MG Aspire should not be getting away with that. Whatever it may be, a 0-5 here, Piercing, is absolutely astonishing.
Yeah, that has got to be a big upset. Having a consistent lead like that on player count the whole time, only to get shunted out by that just because Yazzie was not quite there to finish the job. That is a devastating loss, and we are seeing the Mozzie again. They do pick up the drum very early on, but that's going to be mitigated by having Zaka on IQ again, like we've seen multiple times, but we're still seeing an intel heavy composition coming in from Frequency Esport, and they have to. This has been the best odds that they've had so far, despite the adaptation. And look at that intel coming in well for them, as Zaka will be able to catch Disrupt from below. That, again, is leading to a one-player advantage for MG Aspire and putting Frequency on a bit of a bind. And look at how spread out Frequency Esport is right now. All of their positions are not really crossed into each other. You can't play border like this, because that will happen! Kazuto catching Yazzie out in the open and completely unprepared. You can't let this happen. And there's another one. Cowie going down. That's going to be thanks to Carol. Knightley getting taken by Zaka. One by one, they all stand apart. One by one, they all fall. Except for Slun. He does manage to catch Shimizu. So that's a little bit of a fighting chance. But it's the only one alive. Not even close to sight. Still holding by security. Gonna have to fight all the way just to get on site. Does manage to catch Zaka down by metal stairs. That's presenting a better opportunity. More doable, but still at very low HP. We're gonna see Carol now go for the plant, turning a rough situation even rougher, as now gonna have to try to watch out for any attackers on the lurk. It does get caught out damage-wise significantly, and as they have perfect information on where Slun's gonna be coming from. With 33 seconds on Diffuser being done for, gonna have to branch out, but gets caught by Casper for MG Aspire to pick up a perfect 6-0.
Frequency had themselves that opportunity in the previous round to pick up and stop this domino effect they've been facing, but they always end up catching strays, and MG Aspire are the ones dealing the fatal blows. You called it. 0-6 going over to the defense match point, and MG Aspire cannot be looking at a better run for the last qualifier. Frequency, we need to put up a fight if we want to get to the playoffs. What are we watching? Playing into the fact that MG Aspire always take rounds quickly. Okay, what's the best idea? Let's put a Valkyrie alone to play a passport side, and let's play two players on the upstairs who don't play off of each other. There was no refact potential, and again, the only star player there attempting to have anything be made was Slun, the mute, the final one. Got 2 kills, that's great. But what about the rest of the team? That has been just my main point. MG Aspire, again, they find the mistakes and they punish Frequency time after time. Again, back to back, they have done it. That's why you can see a big fat 0 on Frequency and a 6 for MG Aspire. I don't like to be too critical of teams, but Frequency, I'm not going to be a hater. I will tell the truth, though. No sugarcoating it here, as MG Aspire are absolutely dominating you. In this best of 1, there is not a single chance you manage to win it out. Unless some sort of miracle happens. But Frequency, you're 6 below. You're going in for quite a rush because, while Piercing, we're seeing a blitz from the side of them, and this is not a good sign.
No, this is certainly looking very dire for Frequency, though they are on attack, so that does give them a little bit of an opportunity to try to fight back. But again, at the end of the day, you gotta play close together as a team. This is one of the hardest maps as far as raw coordination skill. It's a litmus test, right? Of does your team actually have it together, or are you really just 5 players all independently playing their own game? And so far, we've seen overwhelmingly that it's been the latter. So maybe there's a little glimpse of hope, but from what we've seen so far, it's going to be an uphill battle, right? It's one thing to be coordinated on defense, right? You can constantly rotate left and right as long as you're not getting caught out on your own. But now you've got to do it even more so on attack, and that's already a rough start, as Kazuto will be able to shut down Disrupt Sure, you've got the shield. It's going to be Slon playing on the blitz, trying to displace. But can anyone capitalize on the presence? No, as Kazuda will be able to pick up Slon as well and pretty much get away with it. But 2 picks do come through in favor of Frequency. That's going to be Casper and Shimizu going down. So there was a little bit of action for it. And Yazi picking up Carol as well. This is already looking much better than what we saw in the first half. But it's one thing to be able to clear. It's another thing to execute. But right now, there's minimal presence on site. So there is an opportunity for a walk-in, which could be huge for sealing the deal.
We do see the pulse on the UMP. Not that favor shotgun when it comes to verticality from below, but hopefully the Melusi is going to be enough to hold it all down. Oh, my mistake. Actually, the pulse is going to be sticking around offices, being a bit more cheeky, trying to execute off of anyone being too greedy to not drone themselves in, and that could be a possible punish. A is where it's headed, and that's where the arrow points, but right now MG Aspire still have the points to catch you off guard. And that's what I think they're going to be playing off of majorly. Sticking close to their guns, trying to peek out. The Melusi attempting to shut down, comes out with one, does finish the job. A 2v2, and a down onto the ace. Is it going to be a 7-0? The last one standing. Vaxi finds one, a double into this round. 35 seconds remaining. The Pulse has the microwave. Pull it out for extra information. Drone denied. You know where he is, but it's a gunfight between each, and one bullet delivered from this bald man will be enough to shut you down for the entirety of this match. A Frequency. It's all down to this one. You come up behind his back. He shoots you out. He finds the bullets, and MG Aspire in one of the most dominant matches we've seen and possibly will see for the entirety of the last season of ESA. A flawless victory, and that has to be some sort of joke.
Yeah, I was really not expecting that. I was thinking this would at least be a bit closer than that. My goodness. I was definitely eyeing that little sneak around, thinking that we were going to see something quite great coming with that for a possible comeback, but no, they don't even get that. Frequency doesn't even get a chance. A perfect 7-0. And that just really does come down to, ultimately, as we kind of discussed as the rounds were going off, this individualism, right? It's one of the biggest plagues of T4 gameplay, right? You cannot let your players just run around and do whatever they want. You have to be a cohesive unit, especially on border. That is not the map to do that. But that's exactly what we saw. I mean, how many times, how many counts can you have where Frequency was just kind of doing their own thing, right? Which is fine and dandy if the other team isn't well coordinated. But when you've got so many drones coming out, great crossplay, you're just going to run into bullets. Even if you catch one player on your roam or whatever on defense, it doesn't matter. There's going to be someone right at your back to shut you down. And that, you can't afford that. You can't let that happen. Because remember, all gunfights are in exchange for space. The question is, 1, do you get the space? 2, how much does it take to get said space? And every single time, because of these solo roams, and this is why it's fundamentally not a good idea, why individualism is not the play, you more often than not either end with a trade happening much sooner than it should have with space, which means attackers are time efficient, or even worse, they get that space and they don't lose a single player and they're time efficient, right? It's like a 25-75 is you get isolated right like that. That's why when you see a rogue player doing their own thing, you hunt them down big time. And that's exactly what put Frequency on such a losing streak and what MG Aspire correctly identified and punished so well.
Just like you said it. But in the end, that's going to be the first best of 1 finish. 2 more remain, which we will be covering Group A. So we'll be back with you in just a moment. But up until then, grab yourself a snack, something to drink, munch on, and we'll be right after this short break.
I need something for myself. All right, and we are back. Welcome to the ESA Cup qualifiers, and I am still here with Puffo Bob. Puffo, we just saw game 1 with Aspire versus Frequency. Wasn't that quite a show?
I don't think it was a show. I think that was just a bully. That was a horror movie, okay? It wasn't the best to see. A 7-0 for MG Aspire is way too much to handle, and hopefully we're going to be seeing a bit more right now, because going into the second match, it's going to be MG Aspire against a team that has had a bit of a better run even in previous seasons of ESA, and that's going to be none other than Cook.
Oh yeah, I think this is going to be much closer, and yeah, we'll be seeing Aspire as well. So get to witness them do what they do best: great droning, good close play. And let's actually take a look at what map they're actually going to be on for this best of one. It's going to be Chalet. Would you look at that? This is going to be a no nonsense map, I would say. I mean, it's obviously one of the typical three. So I feel like this is going to be a lot tighter, right? You've got Cook going up against Aspire. I don't think it's going to be as much of a bloodbath, if at all, for that matter, other than a constant back and forth and ebb and flow, which we all love to see. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this next game. There's no nonsense, no gimmicks. It's just raw gameplay, honestly.
Like you said, this is Chalet, one of the typical few. This is one of the more standard maps. Before, it replaced Oregon in some standard way and Clubhouse on its side. It is usually the played map that people go for a favor pick, a comfort pick, something that you can play while everyone knows the map, everyone knows the strategy. It brings out little to almost no opportunity for some sort of surprise. But in the end, it works off of team play and chemistry, which Aspire have proven to have quite a lot of. Now for Cook, hopefully they're going to be able to bring it in as well, as they did win out match number 1, which wasn't streamed in Group A. And right now we're going into match number 2, where we're going to have to see how well they can prove against Aspire, which again, that 7-0 definitely is a confidence booster, especially going into a second match. We do have one more after this. So again, there's a lot on the line here, but you want to rack up those points as much as you want to.
Oh yeah, 100%. Even one loss down the line can ultimately be what gets you filtered out. That's kind of the scary situation here. So there's a lot on the line for both of these teams to win this match out. And yeah, I mean, when you're on a map like Chalet, both teams have already won their first. There's no room for BS, right? There's no, oh, we weren't warmed up, we weren't ready. No, both are ready to go. This is the round 2 for both of them, right? So this is going to be raw gameplay coming in here. Both these teams ready to go. And we'll see Team Cook coming out with a Blackbeard band to start. Nothing too surprising there. Are we thinking of possibly any target bans or anything of the like?
I'd call the rest less target bans, and I'd still want to stick to shields being taken off, while also a Grim very possible, as we saw it earlier. And just like it, MG Aspire 2 for 2 really do not like to go up against those Bs. The same bans as we saw them on Border, but defense I think is going to be proving a bit more difficult. Again, Insinuation on the Azami, a bit more focus and lead towards an operator like Mira, which is very possible. Maybe even Cage. Possible. Much possibilities, but only 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse can get taken out here, and joining Blackbeard and Grim will be none other than Mira for a second time. We are here 3 for 3 as of current, and well, I think Cook are going to be having a bit of a different route than, of course, earlier Frequency did, and honestly, I'm calling Azami or Valkyrie.
I wouldn't be too surprised if there was a Valkyrie ban, and there it is, Team Cook coming out with the Valkyrie. But yeah, there's got to be some bad blood between MG Aspire and Grim. I really don't think that he's that strong, to be honest. I tried him out when he first came out, and I noped out. I checked out after that point. After running him for about a month. So I have to ask, why the Grim ban? What about him is so unliked on MG Aspire's side? Is there like an incident that I'm missing here or anything like that?
No, it's no incident. It's the fact that Grim is extremely strong. That's about it. After the buff, people in competitive have been using him non-stop. The fact that you're in a situation like this, imagine you're a defender, right? You have top floor library, people are wanting to push from Fluke balcony, want themselves into fireplace mezzanine, and then want to push towards library, take it over, blah, blah, blah. As a defender, it's great that you get to stick behind these reinforced walls constantly and peek out as you wish to confuse the enemies. But how are you going to be doing that comfortably when you're constantly tracked in a large-scale area by the Grimbees? Same goes for the execution. When as an attacker you have 5 to 4 angles to cover and you don't know which one to focus on, a couple of Grim Bees left, right, and center, and you've got that covered for quite a while. That's why the Grim is so strong. Again, it forces the defenders to either walk in, be instantly scanned and seen through walls for a period of time, or just ignore that angle and be forced somewhere else. It's that power of pressure that the Grim really brings, and honestly, I can't blame these players for banning him out, but at the same time, it leaves much more open to it, and one of the operators I was expecting to be banned on this map specifically is the Brava being brought out by Aspire.
Yeah, fair enough. That makes a lot of sense. And Speaking of Aspire, already we see Shimizu taking a substantial amount of damage, now down to very low HP, and that is not the player you want to lose when you have to deal with someone like Fen over by Library to try to get him off that position as much as possible. But there's the first pick. Casper holding a nice angle onto Larry, able to get him down very early on. That's going to be a crucial pick, taking at least one roamer off the picture. But now it comes back to the Library perspective. Can they push this player off? The vertical is going to be paramount here. You've also got a little bit of fireplace presence coming out as well on the side of MG Aspire. And that's a little bit of a tricky push. Huge if you could gain that control this early on. But if mistimed, could spell disaster. You do have one holding on the balcony. That's going to be Schnitz. And whether or not they can clear this player out, I think is really going to dictate the rest of the vertical take.
Definitely will. That Goey being popped still allows the canisters for open, but the Twitch is a perfect counter to it. The attackers have made their progression towards Library as much as they could, but now they need to take it up personally, get off the drones, maybe get on them for an extra bit. Yet again, main cams here are going to be huge, while the Capital doesn't connect. The dock is fair, and LL just to back off, and honestly, I don't think that was a gamble worth taking. Get traded out by Cook for one. The L2A3 going to be a dominant gun. Not the best fire rate, but still puts up a fight to take out the Brava of the team. Now it leaves it whatever is Aspire to offer. The Salma's coming out to deny that breach, and with it, they come out with a gun shooting, AK-12 popping, absolute skull cracking, and with it, Cook with only one remaining. Aspire with a dominant one, and although they have made much mistakes, Cook have unnecessarily done much more, especially when it came down to pushes. I mean, I don't know what Cook's happening here, but a 1v3 here, not going to be one, and that was very questionable decisions.
Yeah, I mean, that collapse on second floor was really rough. But we got to talk about that beautiful play onto Doc. I mean, sending out the fire and the floors as well. He had nowhere to go. Farrell was just completely stuck at that angle. That's why it makes it so strong. At least if there was no fire, you can kind of just move to the side and still be relatively protected. But when you have both Capital and you have that, you have to be moving, which means you're not really stimming yourself, right? It's kind of hard to do that while moving, and you're still taking damage from the fire. So it causes you to fully rotate out. A brilliant use of coordinated utility from MG Aspire, and that was the big opening. Having that confidence towards double to completely collapse balcony. That is how you take second floor. Brilliantly done. I mean, still putting up a decent fight from Cook, trying to hold out as they could. They still tried to play together, but I mean, the util layout was just too strong to bear.
If I was in the position of a Doc, as much as I don't want to get back to it, honestly, stimming yourself and backing up away as far as you could from that drone possibly could have left him to live. Even if he was down, stim yourself again, right? But honestly, it is what it is. It was fast-packed 8 action, and in the end, it was a decision made, and overall, Team Cook don't get the first round. All completely fine and well. We get the next right, and as we're at it, we can take a look at the lineups as they begin switching not only with the maps, but teams as well. A clash from the side of Cook to counteract the Monty ban, or actually the Monty pick rather, that hasn't been banned by Aspire, is they're going to be using it for their own benefits. The Gridlock will be another additional pick alongside the Lion. That is always lovely to see. An operator you can't necessarily go wrong with, and look at the clash. That menacing stare says much more than needed, and Kate taking a lot of damage.
Oh yeah, I mean, such a strong play, or plays all the way around. We do see Hydexia already taking a significant amount of damage, but we'll be able to heal that out. That's going to be thanks to Slav there. But already you have immediate first floor presence coming in from Shimizu, looking to make that push up towards Solarium. But the question that I have is, how are they going to deal with this? Because having that buffer as well as a repel, and then you've got the vertical below, is going to make this near impossible. This, again, great coordination coming in from MG Aspire, and perfect intel coming in. That strong droning. They have exact eyes on Fen, and they are haunting for down here. Does manage to get away without taking any damage, but it's too late. There you have full Solarium control here. You've got Repel, Monty, you've got another player pushing in towards back. This is a dangerous situation. Gets knocked down, pistol whip out, Shimizu, the finish bird out. This is immediate building presence, and a scary kind as well, since Solarium is a big power position. That displacement is gonna prove problematic. But there comes Lixen with the Clash. Carol gonna take Slav down as well. That will provide a slow. However, it's not gonna be enough as Clash will start to get pushed back. Attempt to defuse, but will get shut down thanks to Heidex and Schnitzel, able to take 2 down. It's now a 3v3. They have Solarium control, but they need to get this Clash player out of the way. Luxury already down to very low HP, but it's those last few shots that's the hardest part. And we see Shimizu looking to walk all the way up deep into piano, trying to displace the position and provide cover for the defuse as much as humanly possible. And it does look like they will successfully get diffuser down. That's going to be a big advantage. However, Zaka goes down, and that's going to be to Heidex for a double kill, making this a lot more dire, as Shimizu will be the last one alive on a 1v3 and goes promptly down thanks to Schnitzy.
That Cook, honestly, props to them, but some things were still a bit off. The Clash being in Master Bedroom would have been a bit more ideal. No one necessarily on big window to contest you, and if you could have kept on zapping, slowing, and making sure no one enters site so easily, it would have been great. Again, putting the Clash into bathroom and putting a player like a Goyo next to a Monty and walls being open is simply non-correct. It just doesn't seem ideal. While the Goyo doesn't have the protection of the Clash, he could have held down Bathroom with his gun, and maybe even a bit of the rotation, some head holes, all of it, while the Clash could have just slowed down the Monty and anyone trying to approach Breach while also giving out major information. In the end, Aspire themselves didn't play off of not only the lead they were given, but later on the fact that they had so much ground. They had the post, they could have had the plans, but they didn't stick to it, as of course they went for the wrong position. Too much overall and no positioning towards Bathroom itself. Again, take out the Clash as fast as you can, maybe push her back a bit, drone work, whatever you need. But in the end, Aspire just didn't stick to it, and that's what ended up being the downfall to them that round. 1-1, a quick little EQ for both as we little it down to a smaller round count needed now for the first half, and we go off right over to Baron Gaming, which we've seen before. We've seen Aspire dominate here, and I think they're looking for a similar performance this time around.
Yeah, I think they're going to definitely be looking to maintain that kind of play style. That pushback was big, and I mean, you got to give props. Once you maintain Solarium hold, that is really hard to push back against. And for Cook to be able to do that, especially with a Monty right in your face, this is why Clash is so important, providing that displacement. That's that kind of tempered hold that does them so very well. And if they can keep that up, they can really put Aspire's money where their mouth is, truly. And we do see they're already making significant push towards Piano and West Main, respectively. Luxury already taken a decent amount of damage, but so far, no major push into top yet, at least towards Library, but it does look like they're getting ready to run that again. But the question then becomes, how are they going to deal with the Library? Because that was the big folding point. That's where things really get tricky and can favor attackers, especially when they get that bout player down, which they succeeded and more on that regard.
Not a single body drop just yet. No coffin has been dug. And Team Cook have themselves a cheeky Wamai coming out from the back lines. Fair really feeling himself this time around. No necessarily dedicated flank watching. Just as I speak of it, the drone comes through. The Brava as well. And that's the initiation Aspire we're looking for. Finding themselves the first hunt. They're not the prey just yet, but neither are they the hunter. And this next kill could be determining a lot. Larry low on HP, but the C4 comes out nonetheless. An indistinctive boom of KD, and the Team Cook have now equalized it out on man count. A horizontal push, and Carol wins it out on first. A second one needed. The Goyo again, similar wall, similar strategy. The zombie falls, and you are soon to follow if nothing changes. 2 on Team Cook. No rotation being made. Your player stuck in Library, gonna have to leave it down to the SMG-11 monster. Goyo cans popped as a last effort, but Carol is gonna shoot you down in your last ditch. And in the meanwhile, the Mute making his rotation up. Instead of staying down, he will be having to gamble it all, and the dice just not favoring you this time around as Aspire take it away in round number 3.
Eventually, you're going to have to fall off of vertical. There's really nothing you can do about it. At some point, you have to get off of holding vert. That's just how the site plays. And I do respect how Cook is trying to hold on to it as long as possible because they didn't really have much of an extension. This is kind of where things start to get ugly, right? you immediately lose kitchen and these off-angle areas to help support holding on site. And that creates a situation where you really have to double down all or nothing on vertical. It creates this kind of, I wouldn't say grandstand, almost like a lock-in towards library. And that just has been what MG Aspire wants. They have to have a little bit more support. Otherwise, they can't afford to lose vertical. They know that because they can't get their extension. They're going to get flushed out on that front too. They recognize the situation, but it just unfortunately played out exactly as you would expect when you don't have a means of fallback. And that's kind of where Cook kind of struggled there. They had a strong fallback, not round prior, but the round before that when they brought the clash over towards Bathroom to deny Solarium. They didn't have a fallback here, and that's where they really got caught with the pants down. So we've seen now that they're over in kitchen, totally different site now, but they have that fallback again, and that's going to be Luxury on the clash yet again. But the question is, now that MG Aspire is going to be expecting this operator, will it still have the same level of effect?
MG Aspire, just like on Border, ready to hammer in that third in the first half to certify and, of course, get themselves a good draw confirmed, maybe even better than it. Looking out to steal the stars from Cook's eyes, and we already have the Dokkaebi pushing up. How is so much ground given again? Aspire, this is the strength they play into, right? They get it so quickly and no one there to contest. The entirety of Office may be played off of, but it's 3 players in 1 room, and although it may seem under control, once those breaches start coming out, once those EMPs start popping and giving off the signals, the warnings that your race may be ran, the clash pushes up close. The MPs will be there to shut you down for a bit. No more zappies around, as the Goyo has to be popped for the clash's safety. A nice little retreat from Aspire as they play off of the breach, only to find themselves downed. A finish off the MP5K, a push back to Fluke, while in the meanwhile a spread out from the players. And this clash being the bearer of bad news, as you can't make a move. Fair with a second shot, and he just keeps them raining like absolute hell. Don't want to bring the climax around, but there is none for Aspire as they jump into your lines of sight. Fair with a triple, 1 more for the MP5, and the only one left standing will be the Zero, who truly will be a Zero in this situation. 1 to 5, there is not much that you can do. A Clash Turtle comes out, a double kill for this one, but a triple won't be coming through, as it can be good, but it cannot get any better, and Cook there with a second of their own.
Wow, what a great denial coming in from Cook. And that is so interesting how much impact Clash had there. They funneled her so much that it allowed for everyone else to get into position for a huge pushback. There was a bit of a funnel coming in from MG Aspire, and that was a crucial mistake, right? We saw a lot of presence towards Office, but not as much coming in from Piano, which just gave way too much flexibility in Cook to match force to force with an element of uncertainty. They have to figure out what to do about Luxury, because she has proven at this point that she's a problem, and it is hurting MG Aspire. We are now at a 100% defender win for Clash. Every time she's been brought out, Cook wins it out. And obviously they're going to recognize the veracity she provides, and now they're going to be committing to bringing her every single round. And that's just going to lead to a round down spiral for MG Aspire unless they can find a way to deal with her. And shields aren't going to be the answer. Heck, that's where Clash benefits even further. It cripples a shield down to the crawl due to that movement speed penalty.
By the looks of it, this is going to be a bit more of a fun match between the two teams. Again, not pointing fingers, but that 7-0 earlier was absolute brutality. May have won the battle, Cook, but you still have 2 rounds of the war. This first half is going to be quite deadly, as again, you want to have a potential 4-2, a 3-3 the least. Aspire pick up on it, and you're looking at a danger zone of the fear factor. Aspire taking quick ground, this is what we talk about. Droning and well-seasoned, they have themselves a fine meal. But establishing on this execution is where they started losing their track. up until now. Maybe that tends to change, maybe not. It's all down to the team and how they want to work it out, but Library Stairs overtaken, Library Hallway 2, and continuing off of it as they want to extend as much as possible. The Thatcher's still there, but the Clash is going to be really your largest boundbringer, as again, the Clash peeks out, gives information. It's just a more annoying Monty that you don't have to offer for yourself. Hopefully, though, won't be getting too cocky with that shield. It serves protection, but it's not immune.
Oh yeah, certainly not immune, not in the slightest. We're already seeing a bit of an early push coming out towards the library, but this is where they choked last time, just on a different site this time around. Otherwise, much of the same. So they still have to respect the Clash, and so far, Luxury has felt pretty much no real pressure as of this moment. And it does look like they're kind of funneled towards that office area. You do have one holding at the repel towards double. Nitro goes out, doesn't connect. Shimizu going to be able to catch Hydex. That's going to be already a step in the right direction. A nade coming out. That's going to force a bad spot for Fur. Saka will take that with a well-placed nade. Schnitzy going to be able to catch Casper as well. Oh no, tries to pull the SMG, but it doesn't work. Shimizu going to catch Luxury. That's going to be huge as Shimizu picks up the triple kill, and Slav is just going to be completely cornered and no way out.
The magnum opus of MG Aspire comes out to be the soft support. Shimizu going off with that LD85 is something that we need to take into account. People pushing in, nades out, and with full blast aggression, MG Aspire the first one to capture on the essence of a draw. Now Team Cook have to fight essentially strong and need to be a bit more than just mechanically gifted. That powerhouse is called the mind, and Aspire have been playing it correctly. With an aid, they started this chaos, and they continued it. Just like the war they ended, that was the round that they needed to get themselves in a bit more comfortably. Now this settled tone that they've got themselves in is fantastic. Again, push up, ignore the Clash, anyone peeks out, find them. Read them like a book if you must call it. But as long as Team Cook don't get that chain of events started like they did earlier, after one kill comes a second, you know what happens after? It comes up the third, and you're all of a sudden folded like an omelet. Well, that's what starts with Team Cook. But Aspire, you shut it down, and it's a complete different storyline. As we go, though, we are back to Bar and Gaming. One round has been given. Actually, both of the rounds here have been won by Team Aspire, as long as we have been sticking to this site. And they're looking to have themselves a 3-for-3 run.
Yeah, it's certainly in the realm of possibility for them to get a 3-for-3. But the problem is now you don't have Clash. It didn't work that time around. They were able to flush it out, and that means that Luxury is going to be on the dock, and this is where things get a little bit more contentious, right? When you don't really have that hard stop operator, MG Aspire abuses that significantly, and you have a player on that quarter hold. That's going to be Luxury again. Remember what happened last time, which is that that player, Doc, went down as a result of the Capitao and Flores combo. And I highly doubt that MG Aspire isn't going to run that same play back again. I mean, look, you've already got Zaka on that double window position. It's just a matter of time before it goes out and causes a litany of issues. And look, they've already started. Rotero now coming out, just streamlining the process, beelining it straight to Doc. And there it is, has to run out. Oh, but does manage to get out. Nope, never mind. Zaka gonna catch Luxury. Why would you hold that position again? You knew that was gonna happen. That was gonna be the issue. Lasted a little bit longer when that util came out, but again, much of the same result and much to the same detriment of Team Cook.
Good shot with a kill. Slav there for the backup. Always puts a pat on your back when needed. And that was Team Cook's wake-up call. MG Aspire themselves seem to be sleeping on the job. Smoke's coming out, no initiation. One bolt on each for the Capitao. Frost runs across your monitor. You come back off of the aggression, completely confused. Verticality from below. Need to watch out for your step. As in the meanwhile, the FAMAS comes out. So does the boom. And in the meanwhile, Cook's still on the backline. Shotgun up close. 12 gauge. Slavs to take. 2 on beach, although the HP on the mute definitely not comfortable. The diffuser outside of the building and looking to bring it in. But the one to pick us off first here, I believe, is going to be the surprising Aspire, who have found found themselves not only above, but also fireplace side. Entry isn't going to be as easy. Don't have that verticality no longer. Dropped it off for more horizontal pushes and just to get yourselves in those final few seconds.
Oh yeah, it all comes down to this, and this is so much more doable. Yes, they might have the horizontal now, the vertical established, but they're not playing off of that vertical. Great pushback coming in from Cook. This is looking very close here as they start to make that push towards fireplace. There's the swing, and both Casper and Shimizu pick their wands, and that is going to give Aspire the 2-round advantage.
Breaking down doors. They get the 4-2 in the first half. And now it's a good direct approach towards that defense, as not only are they looking comfortable yet again, they're looking to continue it off of this, trying to play off of even stronger operators that Cook did not bring, and that's the combination of Cade and Tuberal. As the old-fashioned Thatcher and Thermite would go together hand in hand, so does the defense have one to return for their own. And we take a look at the lineup, we're seeing some extras. We're seeing the smoke to counter out any shields, the Fenrir as well to push off, or rather just counteract anyone being a bit too aggressive on their own feet. And Team Cook might as well get tripped if they don't play it correctly as per usual, bringing out the gridlock. An interesting sight. Of course, there is no Azami from Aspire, which is a missing detail if you ask me, but that frost is something that Cook needs to be very wary of, especially when attacking the side of piano windows, jumping into bathroom, or approaching library on its own. The frost proves to be quite a blunderance.
Oh, it's been so strong for MG Aspire. I mean, the way that they've been able to attack has been just so consistently clean. They're very systematic about it, very well coordinated, and that's just magic in a bottle right there. That whole playing as a team that we've been talking about, that is so crucial. And now they get the chance to do that on the defense as well, which is just going to be even more difficult, right, for Team Cook, because you're dealing with that same problem, but on a front where you have to be one to push forward rather than kind of just take the beatings and try to push it back. That's going to make things a lot more challenging. So I do wonder how Cook is going to approach this. I mean, we're not seeing really anything too wild as far as compositions go. A little bit standard. A bit of damage going out to Carol, trying to put a bit of aggression towards Piano as they start to make their way towards Library. Not a lot of presence there, so they do give up that position immediately. But look at all the util that they have to punish this walk-in. You've got Tuberal to hold off Diffuse. You've also got an extension below with 2 Nitros in hand. Smoke, Fenrir. There's so much to slow this down to a crawl, which is going to complicate the hold here.
And we do take out the Kate Kalon, the Kate himself on the floor, lying, bleeding, and finished. In the meanwhile, though, the Tuberal is going to be that major key factor that's going to be stopping Team Cook from making any progress or transitioning into office itself. Playing it on the downside, a down onto the smoke isn't going to be the greatest, and Aspire losing the major aspects for this post-plant, or even to deny it in the first place. This is more than just a slap on the wrist. This is their arm and leg being costed, and right now they're looking like sitting ducks. Team Cook, though, ready to put some shots into them any second now. It's a 3v5. They should have this in the hands no matter what, and just like I talk about it, quantity will be more than enough for quality, because 2x1 for Hydex goes for the default plant, and with it at half wall being completely struck hidden, the FAMAS swings out for yet again, and a flawless for Cook going over to this attack.
Great start for Cook and a big blow to Aspire. Having library control immediately foregone is not the greatest recipe for success. You want to have a little bit more presence, and they tried to force that, whether it was Carol or Zaka from below and Piano trying to play overly aggressive, but that's just how you get caught and shut down. That's exactly what happened. You cannot let Cook have, or I'm sorry, Aspire, you can't have that happen, right? Being able to float around anywhere but sight as you please with minimal pushback. You can't just try to swing off from sight. They're gonna know it's coming. They're gonna hold it, and you're gonna get flushed out there. So I do have to kind of wonder now, what is MG Aspire's angle? Because it certainly can't be that. It's not a recipe for success regardless. Where is Aspire gonna go in their defense next? They tried that heavy plant denial approach, and they got wiped before they even were close to the opportunity to let that utility have its impact. You're going to need to be a little bit more proactive here as far as trying to repel an attack rather than waiting until the very end, which the very end spells doom for them.
For sure, the narrative really isn't sticking with MG Aspire. They will need to pick up the pen yet again. And as for now, we're not heading towards that direction. Tim Cook, though, rather taking up and picking it up. The cast souls will get taken out. Simple soft breach there, secondary utility to counter the primary. A bit ironic, but Team Cook definitely making it all worthwhile. And for now, it's going a bit more wrong for Aspire, still playing it a bit too aggressive for their own liking. Slav backs off, Twitch could get ran out, putting up those claymores, and the Warden feeling himself a bit tipsy. Here's it go off, runs out, and Slav is there on the lookout. He knew, he anticipated, and he acted, as that's the opening in MG Aspire again. Greed getting to their head. The sinful plays definitely being punished, and Team Cook yet again on the top pedestal.
That's going to be a big star coming in for Team Cook. That little bit of over-aggression not going to really be helpful to them. And Carroll getting caught by Schnitzy as well. That's another big setback. Look at how Cook is making so much progress from above. And we're seeing now even more aggression coming in from potentially Shimizu. But again, another pick going out against MG Aspire. They do manage to catch Luxury down, Schnitzy going down as well. But that's still a 2v3 situation. And there's only one on site, and you have Casper, who's so far off. You're going to have to speed up the pace to try to catch these above players, the vertical, off guard. Otherwise, it's going to be all for naught, splintered, and fall alone. Drone going to catch Shimizu from connector, and wow, what a shot coming in from Fair. A quick follow-up, and now the situation is dire. Casper still far off from that position, but is still right by sight, so has a bit of a fighting chance. So that's what happens when you're kind of far back doing your own thing like that. And that's going to make things a lot more rough. The pre-fire's coming in. Fair going to take a little bit of damage, but just sizing up Casper to finish it out. And they start to get a little bit vertical going as well. And there's nowhere for him to go other than to push up and fight back. Manages to take one. Does sustain a bit of damage again. Now down to half HP. Slav going to be the one to finish him off.
Now we reach the climax. 4-4. MG Aspire have dropped it harder than anybody today, and they have barked up the wrong tree. The tree has also been cooking quite a bunch of themselves. A 4-4. This is a good one. Again, Cook, we've been seeing them be a bit more aggressive on the start. They get the opening kill, and anything that Aspire try to throw at them is caught quite easily. And that's that catalyst that Cook really bring to the table. Again, going off of the fact that they get the opening, then they chain it to another, and they just simply don't stop. Aspire can put up a good fight, but they're looking for 1v1s and only capture 1v2s, and that's a minus of a fight, right? You can't really win those, and chances are not in your favor, as they need to step up to the tasks to win it out a bit more. They're on the defense. They should be playing like the defenders, not the attackers. Why are you spreading out across the entire map when site itself is being contested? This is not how it should be, but in the end, it's off of their own accord, and be that as it may, Team Cook right now are the only ones pulling the correct strings, and rather than being the puppeteers, Aspire have found themselves in the position of a puppet. We head into round number 9, right? Look, this is going to be Baron Gaming. Earlier, MG Aspire have won basically every single round as the attacking force. But Piercing, we look at the lineup for Cook, and we see nothing else than just aggression.
Oh yeah, that's a very aggressive composition indeed. Having a Ying, a Blitz, and a Finka, I think we know where this is going. A full-on double window rush. And that's just going to cement a round lead for Cook, which is why this type of play is really important. If they nail this, not only is that going to set a substantial mental shift for Aspire, but it's also going to give a pretty big advantage for them, going from a considerable disadvantage 2 round to actually having an advantage. And it does look like it's starting. However, the Malusi does catch Luxury to slow him down. That could be big in rejecting this aggressive push. The hop down coming in. Luxury gonna take substantial damage from that fireplace vault coming from Zaka, but does manage to finish him off. Zaka turning their back completely against Luxury. They're going to take Carol as well, and now they have site presence. This is a big setback. And look at Casper and Kazuto. They're not even phased by this, still holding their positions. We see Shimizu looking for the walk back. Does manage to get first. That's going to allow them to get back in, but gets promptly shut down by Luxury. That will be a double kill. The vertical now has to fall back down. This is going to make things a lot more dire as you have two holding above. That flushes out Kazuto. That will be the shot laid down by Hydex, making Casper the last one to try to fight for sight back. But Schnitzy will not have the aggression onto Luxury, finishing it out for Cook to take the lead.
Take the lead and dethrone MGS by our first half was 4-2. We look at the present and it's crumbling like a cookie. A rush caught you off guard more than anything, and even when it all settled down, that aggression, that pace now on equal grounds, you find yourself to be losing all 1v1s, stepping each foot into the wrong direction, and you might as well call it that Cook have finally found the crack in the armor for Aspire. I mean, this is a choke point they're holding them under. They have now won 3 rounds in a row, just like Aspire did at the very beginning. Not looking the best. Cook, again, fantastic way to catch them off guard. When you're playing towards the fact that you're, yet again, the attack, and you've been playing a bit more patiently, a bit more laid back, waiting for MG Aspire to make the first move, when you turn that completely around and the entire premises of being a defensive attacker is flipped on its head, you bring out the Blitz, the Ying on top, Blitz coming out from windows and just taking 1v1s as if they were child's play, that's when you really start to get the feel of it. Start with, how would you call it, riding the wave. But for now, 45 MG Aspire on the back led, backed up against a wall, and underway is the double-digit round number 10.
Yeah, I just don't see where MG Aspire goes next. They've been playing this really aggressively, trying to take every fight that they can to Cook, and just getting flushed round after round. This is not a winning recipe for them any longer. They were able to steamroll Frequency with the same type of playstyle. That's just not happening here, especially when Cook decides to come with their own level of aggression up against them with devastating effects. They have to find a way to better hold down and not be so reliant on site itself, which has kind of been their big downfall. Their roam has either been just non-existent or it's not really where it needs to be. And again, this is already trouble. Shimishu getting caught, spotted by Luxury from basement. Now they have an opportunity to isolate a player, and there's the process beginning as they start to mount presence towards Fireplace. That pressure is going to be even more problematic when you consider the walk-up from West Main. However, Shimishu is going to be walking down as well, so there could be some contact in a few short seconds. And with her on the drone, that's not going to be good. All she's got to do is clear this corner, and she spots her, and that's going to be all it. Oh, but the swing coming in at just the perfect time for Luxury to take Shimishu, though down at very low HP. That was perfect timing. That's what you call siege timing right there, folks. Now the momentum starts. The Kebi call going off, getting ready to get that wall open. This is not the start that MG Aspire was looking for, but that's what happens when you have one player all alone. Oh, nice run out coming in. That's going to be from Kazuto, able to take Schnitzy down. That provides a little bit of relief, not having to deal with Twitch anymore, but the utility damage has already been done as far as taking out Goyos and all other kinds of utility that is available. Casper going to be slapping back, able to take Slav down. I guess that aggression is finally pulling through, and it is putting in some work, but Casper is down, looking to secure the kill, and Kazuto will be right on the tail to try to finish this off as well, but still moving forward aggressively. Gets that cam hack. That's going to be a lot of free intel for them, whatever defaults are still available. That could help to nail down these last few players. Kazuto taking a little bit of damage as well, still committing to that 3 armor roam, not having found anyone since.
The dodge and weave from the Dokubi is going to be leaving her alive, but not for much longer as Kazuto comes in for a second swing, and a second chance is given. He takes it with all will. The last one standing, the ace on sight, only to retreat and find themselves in the loving arms of MG Aspire as they finally take and reclaim. 3 rounds were lost. Well, they win 1 round back. And why this is going to be one of the most important rounds following as of current is because the first one to claim it this time around will be the first one to put up the ultimate pressure of the overtime, or rather the match point. 6-5 is what you're looking for. Win 2 in a row right now, and you've gotten yourself a win within regulation, but it's all down to how well it can be executed. We've seen that MG Aspire have now finally let go of the steam they've been holding on since Border, and nicely just cooled off of that aggression. Now that's looking a bit better, but it's one round traded out for 3. You started off with a 4-2, and this being a 5-5 is certainly no laughing matter. You want to start pulling your punches and maybe being a bit more cautious when going into certain peaks. At the very beginning, one player was clearing bottom floor, being a bit too slow on the move, while the player on drone was given just enough time, the Dokkaebi, to pull out the SMG-11 and finish the job. Thankfully, though, we had Kazuto around with the TCSG to make sure all was for nothing. But MG Aspire, 5-5, and now we need this top floor to not be cleared as easily as Cook did so earlier.
Yeah, that's going to be the big question, is how they stave off Cook. But I mean, that pushback from Aspire went so much better. Did they really change all that much? I can't really say for sure. I don't really think so. I mean, it was still kind of really just putting that pressure onto Cook through the roam, but this time I feel like they fully committed to it, and it just seems like there was a bit of an intel gap coming in from Cook. So I do wonder, now that this has changed the dynamics a bit, Aspire can finally do what they do best and get some actual results out of it, whether they're going to commit to that even further or they're going to try to maybe slow it down. You do have one player below. That's going to be Shimishu. A lot of noise being made around. It does seem like there is going to be a spot coming in soon enough, as Slav is on the hunt for Shimishu. This is going to be a big clear and will set the pace pretty early on, but I don't know how ready Slav is, because they've done pretty much a full wraparound, neither having spotted each other once. Luxury going to be able to take Harold down. That will be a pretty good start, but the question then becomes, what happens to the fight between Shimishu and Slav? And there it is, finally getting spotted. Slav goes down. That's going to be the flank watch out the window, as Zaka takes Luxury down as well. This is kind of the intel gap that I was talking about, the missed intel. That's what's been hurting them so badly on their attack ever since last round, is these players being able to roam and get away with it. When they have eyes on them, it usually goes very poorly. But I mean, look at how much intel they've lost. We're only down to 1:10, and all but 2 drones are gone. That is a disastrous intel efficiency, or drone efficiency, I might say. That's not good. You shouldn't be having this big of a drone gap when you still have to clear second floor and then migrate down to first floor, and you've got a player towards bar who is completely unaccounted for. This is a dangerous situation. You cannot be floating your drones and throwing them away like that.
One big hole coming right up, the exothermic hatch used. And in the meanwhile, Team Cook were lacking in body bags as they caught one for Aspire, giving them a bit of a pass on, but looking to lock it back in. As of current, Aspire on equal grounds, but time is where they thrive. Comes out from behind, and that's a backstab from Shimizu. Looking great, and greatness is what they look to achieve. 20 seconds for these attackers, as they need to make a move, otherwise they're going to be facing match point. Twitch and Ash, strong guns, but not the will to carry it off, nor the time as it's being kicked off the clock. Pushing down Trophy, looking to hunt it out, but you're being cross-held. You lose out on the gunfight, and that puts the final nail in the coffin, as Fair inside West Main gets a headshot, but in the meanwhile, you're caught between 2 guns, and Aspire are putting bullets in you, making sure the 6th is there to claim, and they win it out again. Well, that's when Aspire win 2 for 2 in today's playoffs, or qualifiers, rather.
Cook was looking so good there. What happened? I mean, they were just pinching out Aspire left and right, and now, I mean, 8 drones down, 1:30 remaining, intel poor, and they just are caught with their pants down at every single turn. They don't know where Aspire is. Remember, you're the one making the noise. You're the one pushing the boom. That's not Aspire. So you have to get eyes on these players to give it a direction and a fuller impact. But that's not what's happening. I mean, look at that. Again, 3, 4 drones now down. You cannot let this happen. Losing that many all drones are now down. This is what I'm talking about. This is horrendous drone efficiency. And Aspire they're not really changing all that much, but they can now get away with their tomfoolery because they don't know where they are. This is such a big setback for Cook, and I don't even think they know it's happening. Having that little intel, and what's worse yet, there's no roam clear ops. There's no intel ops on the side of Cook. That is going to cause a mounting issue where there's a full-on blind spot. Oh, and it does look like UI's bugged. It was actually throw drones. But still, rule of thumb, you shouldn't lose any more than 2 drones during the prep phase. 3 is still a setback.
It's a setback nonetheless. Hopefully you managed to recover from it. Carol taking early damage, down to 50%. Goyo on the same movement, bottom floor, while Cook themselves are looking to advance off of what they've been given. Early possession and early control. Playing library is a great thing, especially on a site like this. You need it, right? No dog gonna be cornering you out, but you don't have a Capitao to counter. And a trade with a Claymore. That was a very vast gamble that you took, but taking out those Twitch drones was major for the Goyo canisters to prolong through the entirety of the match as far as they possibly can go. One flank coming out and you catch him off guard. That's the Goyo taking out the ace. Huge value, and we keep on piling it, bodies after bodies. MG Aspire are not the ones on break, but they do lose out on one in general. That's going to be trade back. Cook was looking for it, but again, you're completely set back outside of the map, and now MG Aspire have taken the majority of the control. Do not let it happen again. Peeks out the SMG-11 on close quarters, but does a loop around the head, and in the meanwhile, Fair wins it out. Aspire, we love aggression, but there's only a certain line that you cannot cross, and you just did exactly that.
Yeah, MG Aspires so far just swinging themselves to death. Now twice that it's happened. I liked the run out. I like what they were trying to go for. The flank was huge, but everything after that, no. And this is now putting them in a much less desirable situation. A pinch now unfolding onto Zaka. Do they even know that she's in this situation right now? One misstep, and that is going to throw away the match point, granting an overtime situation for Cook. How they play this out will be everything as the pinch slowly collapses in. And Zaka, I don't think she knows how much danger she's in right now. And there it is. Luxury able to catch Zaka. That's going to lead to Kazuto being the last one alive. Gonna have to try to take this intel gap to find somebody. Cook only has 2 drones remaining, and that lack of accountability is going to be huge. But you got to temper yourself at this point as the diffuser is going down. The intel gap is in his favor unless he outright exposes himself. But Slav will hold the angle, will spot him on the walk-in. That's the game sense. And folks, we're going to overtime.
Bows Max OT. Team Cook now humbling MG Aspire, as of course, you got yourself some nasty kills, I'll give you that. But you started dropping like flies, and a drive-by for Cook as they took you out one by one. What was the run out with the SMG-11? It was definitely a gamble, but it was not a smart one of that. What could you have possibly claimed by going into an uncomfortable position? You already have found yourselves in the lead. Not only wasting so much time, but the utility. No Selmas, no Twitch drones to get in your way. It was simply guns, and if you held your crossfires and played into the map's advantages, well, the defense would have been done, and a 7-5, we would have been over. But no, you take it to chances, and you leave it for Cook to bring us into overtime, and now you're facing danger, and more than just that. I'm definitely betting that MG Aspire right now feeling that fear factor kick in, with the possibility that Cook, they win out this attack, they're surely going to win out the defense, but that all comes with due time, and due time it will tell. But between it, let's take a look at the lineups, as they have not been changing much. Again, still sticking with the Goyo, the Fenrir, Melusi, Mute. Tubarao is a great addition, but there's no Mute to back him, or rather, there's no Cades to back him up, which is pulling off of rather than trying to go with necessarily a destruction of Breach, but rather time wastage.
Yeah, and that sure is the landscape now, isn't it? You've got one team that loves to swing aggressively, and you have another that goes in blind. And the question then becomes, now that we've gone this far, there's as much experience as there is with both teams playing with each other, will there be an adaptation to keep drone count up for Cook, or to temper the fire from MG Aspire? Because right now it's just burning with really no control, and it's leading to down spirals. And that's where the stakes truly lie. We know what these teams like to do, but can they adjust themselves in such a way that they can close it out? So far, Cook only has 2 drones down, which is a much better situation. Ping's also coming out, so that tells me that we're getting a little bit of a better droning landscape coming in from Cook, which does play to their advantage as well. And the big thing too, minute or 50 seconds, and so far not a single person has died. We could be possibly seeing a bit of a slowdown, which was a sorely needed change of pace. Of course, you still have Shimizu on the roam, however, does hit one of those track stingers and does get caught in turn. Well, not as far as getting eliminated, but they know that there is one playing from Blue Hall. Though Cook doesn't seem to be interested in pursuing that hunt to isolate the one player towards basement. So you will have that rogue element, Shimizu. Keep an eye on them. They'll still be available to play.
Delaying the inevitable as much as possible, that breach comes to fruition. A trade between the two players. Interesting to see, and headshot for one count like the other. We do find ourselves in the final standing minute. Again, this is going to be claiming who has the opportunity to take it away faster than expected. Match point on the line for a second time. And right now, breach has been given. The C4 is there, doesn't time, nor does it find any success. A couple of shots, and one definitely lands, but as of current, that retreat is given by MG Aspire, as now they're looking for the flank potential, although gonna be a bit less likely to see it come through. The ace needed to jump off, wanted to save himself alive, jumps in, and you find one. Doesn't get the second as it's traded out just in due time and diligence, but a down onto the gridlock right next to a Claymore. We don't finish it off, no! We wait for the mute to come around, get one, the second one with the boom, and now just roaming around library, you spot him out, but you don't act at will, and with it, it's gonna be Shimizu coming out to claim everyone. He's throwing hands, and he's catching bodies, and all of a sudden, MG Aspire are back for match point.
Remember when I said keep an eye on Shimizu? That was why. Big mistake coming from Cook. You knew there was a player in basement. That was a big opportunity to get the one and only roamer that was available out of the way, and Cook didn't pursue it. That's a critical mistake because now you're in Aspire's territory. Attack is where they did very well, and now you have to rectify that situation. We've seen them run Clash, and Luxury will run it again, but eventually that started to fade away and stopped working, and when it did, they collapsed. And now it looks like they're hoping that they can bring that back again, because that was the reason that they were looking to be at a 3-3 before Clash stopped working. But remember, there was a point where it stopped working. This is looking a bit dire for Cook if they want to continue in at least this qualifier series that we are covering for today. I don't know, Puffo. This is a pretty scary situation. Although MG Aspire, they're still playing it a bit overly aggressive, but the way that they carried out those trades made it much more justifiable. That's a good change. So now they're in their territory. They've got a much more gimmicky layout. You've got a Maru and you have Blitz. So we're going to see a very aggressive push. Do you think Cook is going to be able to handle this with the Clash, or do you think that all ends here?
Ooh, that's a good one. Honestly, it comes down to how the Clash is positioned, I feel like. Again, if you position the Clash in a good spot to be comfortable enough, it will definitely give dominance. But if you allow people to run into Trophy and MG Aspire to be reaping off of their own benefits while catching some kills in the process, well, that's where the true mistakes are capitalized off of. Casper gonna be a bit low on that HP, still not taken out as Zaka comes in for help. A 4-2 in this, how we take it away? The last one standing, Clash taken out by Fireplace Dumbledore, and MG Aspire taken away in the last effort, took us all the way to overtime in an excellent fight from Cook, but a hard-fought victory it was, and Aspire just capitalized off of yet again that so-given rush that caught Cook off guard once again, and like it, we have ourselves 8-6 and 2 for 2 for Aspire. Now that is what we call a dominant run.
Yeah, certainly a strong way to finish it out, and I guess we finally got the answer to the Clash question, and the answer was, it did make a difference. Clash wasn't even there for that aggressive push. Remember, one of the big things that kind of set the tone, right, as far as mental, was that rush, right? We saw them do it before, and they succeeded, and that always left a little bit of uncertainty because it gave an indicator to Aspire, hey, we could do it again. And yeah, they had the clash, but we already established that it was having waning effect. And there it was. It wasn't even relevant in that equation. Clash was separate from the main rush, and that meant that there was effectively no slowdown whatsoever. So, I mean, a great read coming in from Aspire, and I would say a bit of a slip up from Cook to not account for that factor, which they had the buffer to do that. Because remember, if they lost that round, oh well, we're in overtime. We've been running defense for this long. We can do it one more time. It would have been a little bit in Cook's favor, but it still would have been acceptable conditions, right? Cook couldn't accept that round loss. They should have seen that coming, but they didn't. And I think that just really comes down to, again, the team dynamics of each, right? Aspire, much more aggressive, even though they could be flawed in that aggressive. While Cook, they depended heavily on their crossplay, but on defense, they kind of were on their own a bit, right? It wasn't as strong as their attack, which was much well coordinated. That was kind of their soft spot. Aspire knew that, and they took it, granting them another win in this qualifier.
And just like that, like Aspire take it away 2-2, we'll be taking it over to break as match 3, the final one of the final qualifiers, will be underway, but just after the short break.
All right, and we are back, folks, with our last best of one for tonight. We've got now Molotov Gang versus Aspire. So this one's gonna be. If you thought the last game was crazy, this one's gonna be even nuttier. Buffalo Bob, you ready for this one? About to finish it out.
I'm not too confident for Aspire. I mean, they have went 2 for 2, but now they're playing against MVG Molotov Gang, who have taken the grand finals of the previous ESA season are on the lookout for another dominant run. And like it, I mean, we have a map ahead of us, and which one could that be? We've seen Border, we've seen Chalet, and well, now we're about to see some Cafe Dostoevsky.
I think this is actually going to be a strong suit for Aspire, actually. Yes, don't get me wrong, they did play it way over aggressively, but this is a map where you want to lurk and run around. It definitely has its place to do it. It's a much larger map, which means a lot more space to try to get as much information as you possibly can. It's going to be a lot harder for effective droning, which means much more space for defense. And it shows with a defender bias on this map. So I think this will give a lot needed room for Aspire to play here. But Molotov Gang historically has been very consistent. So I do think it's going to be an uphill battle, regardless, for them to pick up another win here.
Without a doubt, maybe they can go 3 for 3 or not. But with it, we are slowly going to start heading into our beautiful match today. Again, Cafe Dostoevsky is the final one of today. We had 3 best of ones. We're down to the 3rd. And with it, Molotov Gang, the only one standing before a flawless run of MG Aspire, who have been quite dominant. For first match, it was 7-0 against Frequency, then an 8-6 against Cook rather, who have given them a bit of a battle, especially towards those later rounds in the second half. But now you fight the toughest opponent up until today, and Cafe Dostoevsky is your map. Starting off with the bands again is going to be the Grim, which Aspire really
Grim.
do not like.
No, they really don't want to put up with him, not even a little bit. I mean, I get it. I know why he's strong, right? We kind of discussed that, but I mean, I can't justify it. Like, they really don't like him. But let's see what Molotov Gang brings out here. Of course, it's going to be the Blackbeard band. It seems no one here wants to put up with that. It's already hard enough to deal with it, but then you got to try to shoot those tighter spots of exposure when you're on a controller. I'm not a controller player, obviously. I'm PC, but I just can't imagine having to put up with it. It's got to be far more infuriating to have to deal with that. But for the follow-up defense, it's going to be a Valkyrie ban. Can't really blame them. Valkyrie is the queen of the battle when it comes to Cafe Dostoevsky. This is one of her A-game maps, 100%. So definitely see that. MG Aspire, probably going to ban the same as the first and the second, and it is going to be a Mira.
Wow. Some similarities, right? All three games we've seen today have all had the same bans once it comes to the attack, and very similar ones on the defense. Mira not being one of the liked characters, and MG Aspire sticking to the routes, while the Valkyrie is continued over from Chalet to be getting rid of, and that is completely fine and reasonable, as of course, keep it in mind, Valkyrie on a map like this, on a map that favors information, which also complements MG Aspire's gameplay due to their drone control, comes out to be a very strong powerhouse of a character. Again, the fact that so many rooms connect, the fact that they are long and huge, even though there's a lot of them, in the end, it is one camera just to cover about half of this top floor if you place it correctly, and that's just how much strength the Black Eye really covers. So in exchange for it, hopefully the Melusis will be enough to cover out some information, while MVG are looking to counteract those Melusis with maybe a bit of Flores, maybe a bit of destruction, and of course the Goyos should be looking out for the Twitch drones as they make their rise.
My question is going to be, what happens to all of these teams when they discover Pulse? You think Valkyrie's bad now, wait till you got a Pulse, and you can see basically every inch of movement, and you can't exactly shoot that out without killing the player. I mean, you don't see Pulse all that much, and I still express that he is stupidly underrated. I'm just saying, I have to wonder when that is going to happen. But regardless, that's not going to be the day for that to happen, and we will start to see the push coming in from Molotov Gang already having multi-fronts. Starting off with Balcony, does look like they're going to be going for a standard piano take here, judging from the composition as well. You've got the Nomad, and already a very early pick. Aine able to take out Kazuto. That's going to be a huge pick, taking out Warden. Smokes, flashes, all going to be on the board, but only Duet is going to be the one with the flashes available this time around. So not the biggest loss in comparison to other types of compositions you tend to see.
Early Bird gets the worm, and with it looking for a second worm, Molotov Gang won't be feeding themselves to the brink just yet, but MG Aspire are looking to be starved just a bit, but on a budget when it comes to player. Again, one isn't the worst, but two are going to be absolutely horrendous, while your utility is being chucked out of the window by Molotov Gang as they make their entry towards top, and in the meanwhile have taken out all canisters. Now your intel on the breach, and also intel on anything you want to push up is denied. You see the feet, you give a pedicure, and you take out a second. Molotov Gang punish you for the smallest of mistakes, and you two need to be really wary of what steps you're making. MG Aspire already found themselves on the losing side, with MVG shooting them out at any percentage they're given.
There it is again, that over-aggression costing them dearly. Dwayne gonna take Casper, that's another down. However, Zaka does manage to catch one, but a 1-to-4 ratio is not a winning recipe, I'm afraid. You've gotta have a tighter ratio as Vario takes him out and finishes the job, giving Molotov Gang an extremely clean first round. I mean, heck, you don't really have to push on the site or get the plant if you could just go for a full wipe.
White one of that, and Molotov Gang, how they do it, this is absolute perfection, you could call it. Even though MG Aspire, with a bit of tad pinch of aggression in the very end, found themselves a kill or two just to deny a flawless first round, it came out to be inevitable that the loss was handed to them, and that is the first round. Normally they were the ones to start us off, but the tables have turned, and Molotov Gang are the ones flipping it, with the first round being just as strong. Again, they saw the feat, and they connected 99% of their bullets. They made sure that anyone stepping into their scope is to be a target at hand. Molotov Gang not only playing against MG Aspire's aggression, but at the same time playing into the strengths of the map, off of Skylight, holding it strong, and making sure that any cutoff towards you pushing new balcony is completely denied. That is the strength we will look at into. And as well, the utility usage. Wow! Let me tell you, that's just the flavor that adds on to it. The Twitch drone got every single Goyo canister, and in the meanwhile, it got it so early, while also players were being struck down to the ground. MG Aspire, you're going to need to really lock in for this last one.
Yeah, they're certainly going to need to hold it down a lot better than that. I mean, they just swung themselves to death. I mean, we saw it over and over again. This has been a glaring weak point of Aspire. It didn't cost them the last game. It almost did, though. But Molotov Gang is going to see that, like I said, a lot more experience, and they're going to play that to their part. Oh, but it looks like Shimishu is not giving up that aggression. Said no way, and actually managed to take Deimos down as well. That is going to be a pretty big advantage for them, as that roam clear, that top down is going to be way less efficient and a bigger thorn on their side, especially when you got Zaka on the Vigil as well. There's just a lot more at play here that's going to make a top down much slower. That goes into Aspire's benefit here, because it all comes down to time efficiency when you're doing a top down on a site like this, and especially when you lose a player already.
MG Aspire are going to be having Molotov Gang have a taste of their own medicine and put the money where their mouth is. They stand up and fight, while though your Vigil is trying to attempt and fight back. This revenge strength is coming out for Molotov Gang as they're shooting them down on the spot. A second peek, the Selma here could be useful. You try and lure out this Warden from peeking, no succession, and that's the Ram strength coming in real nice as verticals are coming out, popping ready, nice and strong, while the 130 on the clock, it may be a bit too late to say, but Molotov Gang, you need to really start pushing forward just a tiny bit more. So much damage, so low. Each player of MG Aspire find themselves on the back foot, but you need to be working yourself a bit more to the bone to have that execution come through.
Yeah, so far, massive damage going on to Aspire coming from Casper and Zaka, both down, very low HP. One bullet is really all it could take for both of them. Maybe not so much Zaka, might need a second one, but regardless, that's already rough when you're on a vertical, and often battles are won by a death of 1,000 cuts. And now you have a third player who can die to 1,000 cuts. That's going to be Shimishu. Deployable shield going down as well. VIP is now vulnerable. You've got one on double window, one in garage. That pinch comes through. Vertical plays in. That's going to be big. However, Casper manages to shut INA down. That's going to be a big buffer of relief, resulting in a one-on-one, which is much more doable for them despite the low HP. All it takes is not being lined up at the right time. And there it is. Kazuto taking Duet and Vario. That's going to be a huge clear coming in for MG Aspire. Just now going to be the last one alive, having to take 4 players down. Still 75 HP, 3 low HP on Aspire, but you still have Corel, who is full HP, holding down site. 10 seconds remaining, has to get down, boots to the ground, but you got players now mobilizing back onto second floor. Shimishu gets shut down. That's going to be the Just, but there's no time remaining. That's going to give MG Aspire their first round, a clean pushback.
A good way to start us off, MG Aspire. And again, like Molotov Gang were dominant against you, you return the favor just as well and take out player after player, initiating 1v1s and forcing them upon the attacking side, especially in positions where they're not comfortable to retreat. That is absolute phantasm. And in the end, MVG, where was that loss coming through? We saw that these players are more than capable on the attack to find themselves the comfort zone. They definitely have the game sense to back it up, but MG Aspire, they found the coin flip, and well, they won that 50-50 each and every single time, as honestly, rather than luck, I'd call it skill. That was pure decision-making at its finest. And over towards this defensive, MG Aspire are going to be continuing down the line of trying to climb up the ranks and even beat out the prior grand champions of the previous season on ESA. As I said it, MVG are no force that can be reckoned with, but they definitely have some sort of mistakes, and MG Aspire, they're on the hunt. Nooks and crannies searched, all sought out. And 1-to-1, it's a very dominant and a very interesting beginning, as again, Piercing, I think we're looking for a long run of a match.
It's certainly looking like it. I mean, again, if any map is a map to play to your strengths, it's definitely in favors of MG Aspire. Molotov Gang has the experience, but MG Aspire has the aggression. And really, that one pick just led to that down spiral on a top-down win. The intention is to maintain a player advantage, get that full vertical, and not have to really deal with Rome as it is all locked down. And they didn't achieve any of those objectives. Maybe getting it narrowed down onto the first floor, but again, what good did it do them? I would say not all that much. So now they're in a position where they have to try to do the same thing, MG Aspire, but on third floor, where Molotov Gang cleanly ran it out, and they already have intel on Zackle trying to break down those Keebler barriers. Got a bit of a matrix going on, but those things aren't going to last them forever, especially when they're getting taken out by bullet fire as well. Duet looking to possibly catch Zaka. They do have the drone intel on her, And we do see Dwet able to cross all the way to Nubauk. There's the close swing. Zaka already on top of it as she takes down Dwet. That's going to be big, as now there's no flank watch any longer.
No judgment being passed on no longer from the side of MVG, and MG Aspire getting away with all frivolous acts. As MVG, where is it? That light that you saw earlier, the fact that you managed to find the mistake MG Aspire were opening up for you, that gap you managed to crawl through, it is no longer there. It has been patched behind. And MVG are now making more of the mistakes than to be anticipated. A second one there, a kill as well, dropped on, a bit of a loop-de-loop, as you can find yourself out of this chain link of events. 110 on the clock, and you're suddenly found completely lost. The attackers now trying to scoop through anything, scavenging this piano side, but you have 3 players in your fight against 5. Although Zaka is low on HP, and same could be said for Carol, it matters not when they peek out, get punished. A double here for Molotov Gang, a triple even, but gets downed. That was a huge play and necessary for MVG to bring it back. One more, and it's a 1v2. The last one, this Brava standing on, and even a peek anticipated, but not punished off of. MG Aspire bring wit to will, and with it, they win out round number 2 for themselves.
Man, Molotov Gang cannot catch a break on MG Aspire's aggression. They cannot contain it. That's a big problem. This is a map where there's a lot of nooks and crannies and spots to swing out and really get the damage in. You come from one direction, but MG comes from many angles. And many angles, they are putting the hurt. And without Grim, it actually turns out to be a beneficial ban here. I mean, not saying it wasn't beneficial before, but even more so against Molotov Gang. You don't really have a way to lock these operators down. They tried to bring Deimos once, but that player immediately got taken down. You have to have something to try to contain these players, and so far, Molotov Gang has absolutely nothing. MG Aspire is pretty much playing on free roam right now, and the effects are showing, and folks, it is devastating. There's got to be a change of pace to try to hold Aspire and bend it on its knees when it tries to play aggressive, and it's not really pulling through. This is what makes things so challenging for Molotov Gang. Do they have a strong execute and follow through? Absolutely, but does that really matter when all it takes is one player to come in from one angle that you weren't exactly strong on holding? And yeah, that tears everything apart. This is where the challenge lies for Molotov Gang. Every team so far has tried and failed, but Molotov Gang is the most qualified to do it, but they've got to bring the right operators and have it locked in.
With it, Molotov Gang find themselves on the losing side, as they've been rather than receiver than the giver of shots. And just as I talk about it, Variox is Will more than just happy enough to peek onto Skylight and get himself yet another victim. Carol running along carelessly, the mute peeking out with his feet yet again. It seems like MG Aspire have not learned their lesson when it comes to top and bottom, but in the meanwhile, MVG still reaping off of nothing else than benefits, and they're looking to work off of those as well. It's an opening kill, and it continues traditionally down the line, as the Izami has no fight back, and a pushback is needed. MG Aspire limited on their players and needing to take upon a horizontal push. Oh, just punishes the run out. That's what you get when you try and face the very hungry Ram, feeding themselves even more. MVG have now served many heads on a platter, but 2 remain to fight back against it.
Yeah, this is certainly a dire situation. 1 Nitro in hand, but they've swung themselves to death, making site presence extremely weak. Even if this Nitro connects, it does do a good amount of damage, but damage is not going to be always a kill here, and Ilson is still alive and able to hold on to site. That's going to make things a lot trickier. Here comes the walk down. You've got one close. That's the shotgun. Shimizu able to take Ilson. That's going to be the follow-up to the Nitro, but it still means you have 4 players to go. The walk down could be the choke point. There's a lot of avenues that you can put the squeeze down, but there's so much vertical going around. We see Dwet finally make the hop down onto 2nd floor, despite being at significantly low HP. Casper gonna get slightly spotted out, takes a little bit of damage, still holding most of that health. A lot of tankiness coming in from MG Aspire, but a good amount of chip damage either which way. So Fuser gets dropped, trying to get dropped from below. Instead, they're going to go for the drop as a whole, bringing diffuser down, getting ready for that close quarters plant, and they're going to go for it. And with no more smoke canisters remaining, there's really not a lot that they can do to try to stop it. Tries to put some pressure down, does manage to successfully take the flank holder, but the vertical from JX is going to finish it out.
The most concerning part about the entire round was the fact that Molotov Gang's biggest issue was dropping the diffuser down onto pillar, but in the end, you know, you put the ace on it, give him the job that he should carry out till the end, and they find themselves the second round. Again, both of these rounds have been one-sided. I haven't seen much, I guess you could call it 1v1 situations. I haven't seen 1v2s, nothing like it. In the end, it was all down to a 1vx, and that's a situation that should not be given. MG Aspire either have themselves an absolute blast of a run, or it's MVG taking the same path, but just trying to turn them into their own scale. And as of current, round 5, we're slowly approaching that first round end. It's the beginning of the end, and 2 more rounds remain. Now, it is important how we manage to scoop this one out. We have a second chance after, but right now, looking at these defenders, the Echo has definitely been an outstanding character that usually isn't quite a common pick, but definitely something that's underrated, and if used correctly, can quite be a piercing part of trying to find yourself that success on a defense, while though MVG, they're bringing it all out to try and clear out this roam with not only the Jackal, Gridlock for flank watch, but also just back on that Ram.
Indeed. And so now we begin to see the push. Question being, do they go for a top down again, or do they possibly go for a more horizontal front on the second floor? We haven't really seen too much of that so far. It's been entirely top down coming in from Molotov Gang. That's been pretty much their entire rundown, but it is looking like we could see maybe a little bit of horizontal potential, but then again, it does look like they're going to be doing the top down again, which I think MG Aspire might be ready for, as they have Zaka on the Vigil, as well as a good amount of first floor presence, though I do have to question how much real impact that first floor... Oh, I say that as it's second floor, but regardless, I mean, I think that this top door floor presence is still going to be a challenge for Molotov Gang, because you have players like Zaka moving up, who is running the Vigil, right? Having pressure that can slow things down, but you do have that second floor horizontal that's going to be coming in from just able to get a decent amount of damage. Al does finish the job, going to take Zaka down. That's going to be big. That was the big thorn on their side. Minute 45, and they finally have the top down. This is a much faster, much cleaner pace. They had players on second and third floor to prevent anyone from running away. These are the odds that you want to have when you're getting ready for vertical. You want to keep your numbers up as much as possible when you start your vertical, and that's exactly what MVG has achieved, putting MG Aspire on a bit of a bind here.
Holding them down to this line, the mute just shows up in front of you and you don't pull the trigger. One of the largest mistakes right now, and MVG could have gotten themselves, oh, such a golden 5-3 opportunity. Missing out on it, hopefully not going to be the big bad wolf knocking at your door, but you push up and find yourself dead. Grave dug by MG Aspire as they continue to rain it onto top floor. This is going to be a great opportunity for not only flank, but denial for the mute player, as that SMG-11 is not only making its way up, but just is making its way down the elevator and into site itself. Freezer occupied, and now the plant ready to go off. They've gained this ground, and this was a huge drop that was needed for Molotov Gang. While in the meanwhile, sticking down to rope. Oh, not expected, but the mute gets punished, and in due time, due diligence is given. Molotov Gang lose one, but they look to reclaim it any second. All angles and crosses are being held. Nades are chucked and verticality established as you lose out on the fight, Echo, and the only one left standing is this Legion to be taken out by the infamous AK-12, and MVG are back in the game.
Oh, certainly they are, and with a round lead to boot as well. I mean, a great top-down clear coming out from Molotov Gang and spotting that player from above. A great intel matrix as well as positional hold. MG Aspire, they knew this is what they were going to do. We've seen it time and time again, that late round walk up to try to get a flank going. They love to pull this off, and the read on that from Molotov Gang, brilliantly done with devastating consequences. So massive props to them for being able to pull that off, and that does indeed get them an advantage that was sorely needed, as it's been so close up to this point. It seems like Molotov Gang has kind of fully unlocked the puzzle for how MG Aspire likes to swing this aggressively. We're not seeing any kind of rush strats coming in from Molotov Gang. Seems like that's not really their style, but does it have to be when MG Aspire swings themselves to death? I would argue no.
We can argue as much as we want, right, Piercing, but the issue still stands. MG Aspire have been, since the beginning of today, since we've started watching them, not switched how they want to play, nor that aggression has been cooled off. Towards Chalet, they did take into consideration that they were slowly starting to get on the losing end, so they chucked it in a bit more. They started pulling their punches less, and in the meanwhile, got a bit more smart with it. But now they're back onto that playstyle where they swing until hopefully they get around the loop, but it necessarily hasn't been happening just yet, and MVG are still chucking drones from one side of the map to the other. That was a very good throw, have to accommodate the Twitch for it. And in the meanwhile, look at the utility destruction that one drone brings. You find one piece of utility, you find another, and it's all gone, done, and dusted, deleted from existence. As MG Aspire, this is their main point of their lineup. It's that utility. You have the mute, you have the Fenrir, Goyo, proximities, all focused towards information, but what will information do when a Twitch drone has its way?
Yeah, that certainly makes things a lot more complicated, looking to get that mute jammer off as well, but it doesn't look like they succeed, but a nade will promptly shut that down as well. Oh, it doesn't. It looks like it got caught in between the walls, so they do manage to keep that bathroom wall open. However, we do see Kazuto manage to take down ESA. This has been that aggression that they love to pull off, and that is going to introduce a slowdown. You do lose ESA, but the Twitch is already dead most of its damage at this point. Carol going to be taking a substantial amount of damage here, trying to hold off this push into Pantry. Kazuto going to be sustaining a bit of damage as well, but no major walk-up coming in from Molotov Gang quite yet. Still looking for that opening, and there's the Ram coming out to try to take care of that deployable shield. You also get the Goyle goes off. Kazuto going to be catching Vario as well, but there comes the push as Duet manages to take Zaka down. Kazuto going down promptly after. That's going to be a double kill, a great walk up, but a Nitro will refrag that down. Shimizu now out of the picture, bringing it 2v3 with 55 seconds to go. Vertical going off, but Inet can't connect the shots. Shimizu sustains a significant amount of damage, but still manages to get out of the way, leading Inet to be very low HP, which when you only got 2 players remaining, that's not exactly a desirable outcome. But still, despite that, committed to holding that vertical, looking to spot another player out. With 28 seconds to go, has to eventually go for the drop, which Just is looking to do possibly very soon. But with such little time remaining, will they be able to clear the players that they need to? There goes the drop. You've got Casper holding pillar. I don't think they know. Going for diffuser, that is going to leave a big vulnerability as he rushes right in, able to take Ine and gets major damage down to finish just as well. MG Aspire cleaning it out.
Holy! MVG! What was happening in that round? Again, we lose out on the first 2 due to you just trying to pick up a bit of ground off of no information, rather head checking as well. That is not the finest of crafts we've seen from them, and MG Aspire definitely built them a hut and shut it down right in front. They burnt them with it, and the 3-3, that is a close score that we have yet to see today. It's a new game and a new time for both of these teams, although MG Aspire are still quite a leading force. MVG there with those shots onto the mutant, not connecting from the ace. Again, it left the 3-2, it left the 2-2 in the hands of a minus. And back-to-back, we have seen mistakes from both of these teams, although only one has been able to really pick up on the scent. And as for now, we're going to be swapping roles, one on the attack, the other on defense. And MVG are now on a, I guess you would call a agreed upon better site. And not only that, but they're on the bottom one of that, trying to play off of verticality. The Echo has another upbringing. The Goyo as well, hopefully going to be bringing the Twitch, which hasn't been spotted out from Aspire's side. Hopefully, though, the verticality is going to be enough to get you those line of sights to allow you to manually destroy the Goyos. And in the meanwhile, you have to focus on getting this verticals. That's what MG Aspire's lineup looks to be off of. And the entirety of MVG really don't play off of any strong roam potential.
Yeah, and this is where things get a little bit scary too. If you look MG Expire, they have not lost basically any drones as well. Before, they've had a problem with intel retention, but they've got the Jackal as well. This is a much needed change of pace for them, an adaptation, which means Molotov Gang isn't going to be able to, I think, capitalize on that raw aggression without the support anymore, at least not on this second half. So they're going to have to play this a lot tighter here. They do still have active intel that's going to be from just thanks to those echo cams. Does get spotted, but still sitting comfortably on site, so not going to be too much of a worry there. That's kind of why it's nice to have an anchor running about the place, because it leads to these scans on anchors that isn't really who you're looking for. You're wanting to hunt down roamers and other operators like that. You're not looking for your site anchors. Those scans are going to be valueless. And now with 2 scans down, Jackal only has 1 before effectively the intel is dead in the water.
The Ace looking to pinpoint some Selmas over towards Bakery side. With the support from above, it definitely stands to be a lot more than just possible. Early damage towards Just, who, as the Echo player, you do want those stims to be coming in quite nicely. MVG still supporting each other and wasting great time, even though, as they're not playing against this verticality, that might just be the biggest issue we've seen up until now. Applying some extra pressure to the wound, they don't back off towards service, and these stims are coming in, but there's only a limited amount and only 1 sticks through. 1 minute for MG Aspire, and they cannot get a handle of the situation, while we ourselves on MVG don't need any explosives to fight it back. Guns and raw going in, the Vector finds itself more than just a P shot, it's a shot to deliver the final the tide or that the Buck has to go up against, and only 45 remain, and now the Smoke Babes start to make their entry.
Alright, this is not looking too good. 40 seconds on the clock, Smoke's now starting to go out. You still got Royal Canisters that haven't been destroyed, and you don't really have an avenue to push through just yet. And Casper, being such low HP, makes it even more dangerous to hold from above. They do manage to find wiggle room into Freezer. That's going to be big. Able to take out Echo. That is sorely needed space. Getting Ine down as well. This is a big displacement. This is the opportunity they needed. Shimizu taking down Virio as well, but Duet gets the refrag. Carol going down as well. The pushback going through. A collapse onto site, and Isan takes one, takes another, as Molotov Gang completely demolishes the attack in full.
Wow! Again, exchanging. When it comes to pure strength, both the Molotov Gang and MG Aspire have the guns to back it up, but it was the strategy that lacked for Aspire. As much as they had verticality, which is normally contested by the defenders, bring over a Solus, a Pulse, something to make them scared for it. All that Molotov Gang really needed was to play off of whatever solid ground they had, lurking in towards Freezer, towards Bakery, towards Service, Entry, and in the meanwhile, maybe fight against the verticality at times to make sure that MG Aspire aren't being too cocky. They found themselves just the right ground to allow a 1v2 with low HP, and again, the Vector, which is probably one of the best guns in a 1v1 scenario, especially on the range that was given. With such a small time frame, there was no comfort for MG Aspire, and with it, we have a 4-3. Again, establishing some sort of first round. Not only the first half, but also the second, which does keep up the tradition. But now it's up to the question, will MG Aspire be able to fight against these odds and chances that is also known as defense, or will they fall behind and allow Molotov Gang to take it within regulation? It's only a 2-round difference. That's all that's needed for MVG. But unless MG Aspire have some sort of hidden trump card or some sort of chance that they have yet to reveal, I think we're going to be having ourselves quite a rough match this time around, and for now, just needing to bite the bullet.
Yeah, they're definitely going to have to bite the bullet either which way. But now, moving on back to second floor, this is where MG or Aspire struggled on their defense, but now they get an opportunity to turn that on their head against Molotov Gang on the attack. But I doubt Molotov Gang is going to just give them free lives like MG Aspire has done several times over on this site. And look at that, you've also got the Jaeger on the board as well. I didn't even spot that. Ironically, a somewhat rare sight to see nowadays. It looks like that's going to be towards holding off Bar, but wow, what a nice shot coming in from Zaka to take Vario down. A bit overexposed there. That is crucial in providing a improving ground in order to move on into Piano. And here comes the lurk. Isan able to take Kazuto. That is a great clear second floor. That walk up on stairs could have been really dangerous on the Whitehall hold. But for now, it is continuing to be in Molotov Gang's control.
Who will be the final one to bury the hatchet between these team fights? Just managing to escape out of certain death, the Duet backs off towards bathroom, while MG Aspire here are going to be lurking on this top. Not only the roof itself, but not making much of an advance. Finally pushing Piano itself, you expose yourself to be completely walled in, while the side of Molotov Gang are still sticking to their guns, but they lose out on not one, but two gunfights in a row. The third one for a follow-up, and only one standing being the Mozzie from back, having to now track through these gridlocks, one holding your flank, and there comes MG Aspire again to tail behind the score that Molotov Gang put up, and now it's 4-4, being closer than it ever seemed like it.
Yeah, that was a crucial take coming in from MG Aspire. Amazingly done, too. Full sweep. I mean, having each other's backs. Yes, they lost their player from below, but that ultimately didn't matter when they had the grounds for Piano, which Molotov Gang struggled substantially to keep a hold of. That is really what you want to pull off when it comes to a third floor take. Once you get that Piano control, everything just falls in line. And that's precisely what we witnessed there, as Molotov Gang just slowly fell apart. It's a power position for a reason. You want to put the investment to hold it. But now it looks like Molotov Gang is moving on from that side, as they will be going to second floor, which I always say is the diciest site of them all when you are defending, right? First floor, at least you can slow down to top down. Third floor is just hard to get into regardless. But now you're on a site where you can go from below or above, and it's going to be scary all the way around. Any point can be a break for Molotov Gang.
The drone going to be exposing you for the spawn peak. Again, unsuccessful on it. MG Aspire apply a bit of pressure, be it through gunfights alone or just a bit of cheeky spawn peaks every now and then. But they get away with their life, and that's what matters most, not losing out on any early disadvantage. Although MVG, they themselves on going to be a bit more trying to represent that action as well. MG Aspire on the attack, gonna have to see how they push towards it. Again, verticality here is a major key point, as trying to play this horizontally against the defense, which is majorly stuck up not only in players but utility as well on this top floor, trying to guarantee it as much as possible. Even Jewett on that pulse to counteract anything coming out from top and fighting it off. That is the team lineup we need for the defense, and MG Aspire even bringing out the Nook for a bit of a surprise from below.
Oh, I look forward to seeing what the Nook will be able to bring about here as well. They have perfect pings. They've got one on drone, and they know, or on cams, and they know exactly where that player is. The hunt now beginning to find that player. It's possible that Post might have spotted it, and they do, but it's too late, as Shimizu will be able to take just down. That's going to be big in getting rid of one Nitro player. There's still one more to go, and that's going to be Jouet, who's also holding on the same floor. That can be a big upset if that goes down as well, meaning there's no more players on the second floor. It's going to mandate a fallback, which could cause a bit of a disruption.
Just being the first one to be taken off will be allowing MG Aspire to slowly start creeping into your backlines, and I don't think MVG are starting to realize it. Again, we hear the Salmas going off. We hear all type of breaches left, right, and center, but not much of a move being made by the side of the defenders, as they are caught lacking, trying to defend off mining as well. Gets a beautiful shot onto one of their own. The Nook taken out before it even came down to realization, as of course the time of reaction is favoring MVG, not only slowing down time, but again, this ground they've covered over expanding towards mining is absolutely huge, trying to take take up any fight they can, get themselves these 1v1s, and in the final few moments, get themselves on the top of the leaderboard. They've had the lead so many times, and can they reclaim it for a second? Well, lightning usually doesn't strike twice, but it struck it 3 times before. That's ANA with 1. Verticality still challenged. The Pulse with his microwave not being able to be hit. Call him smooth, call him a criminal, but he's heeing it all around. 1 for the Goyo, 3-3, and all of a sudden Molotov Gang need to find themselves a bit of a pushback, and so they do. Ryox with 2, and the only one left standing. This poor IQ between all sorts of crossfires and too much to handle. Molotov Gang, again, they're back to pick it up.
Yeah, this has been pretty much a pace of catch-up for MG Aspire, which is not a winning strategy, because as we know historically, when you're playing catch-up, all it takes is another slip-up, and now you're at match point, and this is the prime area for Molotov Gaming to Molotov Gang to close this one out. But we've got to talk about that first floor sweep. That was so clean coming in from Molotov Gang. They've successfully held off third floor, and then they were able to shut down the rogue element on MG Aspire, which was Shimizu. That could have been a big issue coming in for Molotov Gang, having a horizontal player just sitting there doing whatever the hell they want. But they didn't let it happen. They shut it down. That's exactly what you want to do. You cannot have a rogue player like that doing whatever they please. It was a good clear, but she overstayed her welcome, and Molotov Gang took advantage of that to shut out the presence on second floor, forcing a move that they weren't quite well equipped for.
10 seconds to insertion.
They win this round out, and imagine the thought process, the mental breakdown for MG Aspire. Earlier, they were the ones constantly earning the match point with pure strength and, again, game sense that they have to back it up. As, of course, this time it's a different story. MVG here win it out again and again. And all of a sudden, we have a 7-4, which would be quite expected. But MG Aspire, with the performance they've been putting up, I can definitely see them resulting for the third win of today. Breach coming out, Selma's on the load, out of the right pocket in the left. The hope and passion for MVG to win it out within regulation. Aspire need a bit of a callback and some sort of result to be shown. The Jackal there on the track, we hear the gridlocks be popped, and in the meanwhile you try to find that execution. Variox is very patiently holding it all down, but beneath his nose, the entirety of MG Aspire have already made their entry, although you have to watch out for Druid, who comes out with the L2A through, and there's the Jackal on the support doing his job as the clearage of Rogue.
Yeah, so far, one big step forward, but also one big step back. That's your vertical player now completely gone, so you're not going to really have that option, which is a big setback if your play is going to be onto Bakery. So this is going to force a horizontal, as we're seeing just now, the droning coming out towards Bakery. They have to make this move towards horizontal because they're not going to really be able to do as much on the vertical as they once was. But they're still trying it anyway. They do get that freezer hatch open, but either way, that still poses a challenge. You got one posed very aggressively. That's going to be that's why you don't hold that position, because Carol gets the full swing and you're stuck in a corner. I like the initiative, but that's not how you do it. That's going to set them back another player, and it's going to allow MG Aspire all the leeway that they need to solidify their hold.
They need to solidify it, like you said. Now it's seeming a bit more soft. An extra bullet there, and Jewett could have actually punished on play. But still, with 50 seconds remaining, we've seen them in a position like this, and they have outcome as the winner of the down and finish on the Jackal. Variox with another dominant spree. But now we're looking for an extra spray. 2-3, one behind, and can we get ahead? The Ace creeping and crawling all the way into the bullets of the Doc, only for himself to be taken out. The medic usually isn't the one to be shot out, but the Terrans have tabled. The plant is going down. The last babe is in stock. You get the headshot onto one. You approach it cautiously, but it's post-planned, and this is a situation that shouldn't be one out. One from Red goes a single canister here could shut it down. You get the shot onto the ace, and Aide is going to be falling victim to it. Now, Verticality, the biggest blunder that Molotov Gang have let slip by, gonna have to fake it out as the canister there to deny, but I don't think it's gonna be a peak that will be stopped out. A second made, and even with the shorty, you find the wall bang just by pure accident. MVG lose it out on round number 10, and all of a sudden, it's 5-5 as if nothing were to happen in the beginning.
Such a close round for Molotov. They needed that round to give them match point, but nope, again, it's that ebb and flow, that back and forth. The tempo's still in favor of Molotov Gang, but a one round difference isn't going to win you out, unfortunately for them. If they cannot secure a 2-round differential, they're going to be heading into overtime. And I mean, it really just all came down to the vertical clear. That's really where the biggest mistake was. Like you said, gave it up too soon, and that's where things went wrong, especially with that hold from Just in Bakery. A great call to put a little bit of horizontal pressure, but holding such a off angle like that, that's like one of the worst off angles in the game. You don't want to take that for that exact reason. You have no fallback, and they have every single means to navigate around you. And you basically just have to time your swing perfectly in order to deal with it. And that just, it didn't happen. So, I mean, that's where things really went poorly, right? You had an even a player advantage, but then you gave it all up on Bakery.
Molotov Gang are going to be bringing an operator that is quite a sore sight to many in the community and also the competitive scene, as it's not only annoying, but also known as the Clash. The simple, "You effing Muppet" call makes you shiver to your timbers, as against that operator, there's not much of a counter. Yes, you can punch, you can throw nades. Not immune to bullets, but behind that shield, there is definitely a lot of protection. And also putting up a fight, especially towards Piano, when you need someone to hold your angles and give out information, the shield operators thrive, all besides the Blitz, who is most of the time quite exposed when it comes down to the bottom and top. As we push in, the Azami herself feels threatened. The Mozzies, or not the Mozzies, the Flourish drones there to take out an extra bit of utility, chaining onto 2 Kiba barriers, and now starting to slowly make their destruction be well known. Molotov Gang need to have some sort of way to answer for it, and what better way to do that than to put Jewett on the fragging side?
Well, Jewett does what Jewett does. Able to take an early pick out, and that's kind of a round setter typically. And you still have the Clash that's going to have to be pushed through from a million different angles, but they still have cigar control, which is big. If Molotov Gang puts up a counter offensive to contest this space, that could be huge. And there's the counter offensive, taking out Kazuto, taking out Carol, now down. But you still have the pushback from Zaka, getting a double kill, taking Vario and Jewett down. That's going to be big. It's now a 3v2. That was a huge secure coming in from Molotov Gang. A great counteroffensive coming out from Jewett to put them on the advantage here. Zaka pushing up very deep in, trying to turn things around, gets caught by Just. Now going to be up to Shimizu to try to save this situation. With the Clash still on hand, has every bit of information on where he is, making things a lot more desperate. Just trying to get some kind of displacement, trying to start a fight, but the Nitro goes out and Clash is right on his tail, not providing any means to fight back here, especially now down to half HP. Has to look for something or try to get Clash off his tail. Does manage to do that by wrapping around Nubak, but Isan is ready to knock him down, knowing that's the only escape he had.
One tap, a single bullet is all it took. A slug shot from the side of MG Aspire to finish it off, and I believe we are going to be having some disconnects. Now, as all of this will be resolved, I believe the entirety of MG Aspire have left us behind, which we are going to be resolving in the backgrounds. Again, we are apologizing. I'm not sure if a rehost is needed or some sort of a background context as well, but as we're trying to figure that out, we did get information from production that there is a protest for a skin, which is also a very interesting way to get out of this 6-5 situation. I guess MG Aspire do need every round they can get, which honestly, fair play. It is competitive. There is no wrong or right, but a mistake is when you're wearing a skin that is not allowed in esports, and well, we're going to have to see if MVG get punished for it. In the meanwhile, though, I mean, for now, while everything is getting resolved, we are going to be taking it to a short break so we don't constantly keep on yapping into nothing, and we'll be right back with you.
All right, and we are back, folks, and the ruling has just came in. There was an unauthorized skin in the game, so as a result of that protest, the round that was most recently played will be replayed. So we are back on round 11.
Well, in the end, MG Aspire came out with that protest. Hopefully this round is going to be theirs, because if it ends up being still a 6-5, maybe even a 7-5, I wouldn't be too happy with the results. Everyone's sticking and waiting, but for now, it was something that needed to be brought up. It was a mistake done by Molotov Gang, and we continue with it. And of course, like you said, 5-5. We continue even with the clash still back in game and ready for MG Aspire to try and counter and sneak their way around this type of operator. While though that is quite hard to manage, in the end it ended up being quite a burden to work against. And now we head into round number 11.
Well, the thing that's going to hurt Molotov Gang here is they don't have that element of surprise anymore. The thing that allowed them to win that was Jouet sneaking in through Piano and then swinging out Cigar. Now that element is going to be completely out the window, which that was the round winning factor. So as a result of this protest, I don't know what the turnout is going to be, because that round winning play is pretty much off the table. Or at least if they try it again, it's going to end up going disastrously, because they're going to be ready for it. Well, maybe not disastrously. They could have just not had the proper play to adapt to it. That's always a real possibility. But as far as the element of surprise goes, nope, not there anymore.
No longer in the hands of MVG. Nate's coming out. A bit more prep time, and this Flores will have to be utilized just a tiny bit better. Save extra drones to push the clash out of comfort zones and maybe even capitalize off of wrong steps, moves, and all sorts of directions. But as of yet, a minute has passed and not a single body has dropped. With how aggressive both of these teams have tended to be up until now, it's surprising not a single tier of drop has been dropped. A single tier of blood has been dropped. Taking out the zombie barriers wastes a bit of time, wastes a bit of bullets alongside it, and you caught the clash on the side. Impact's coming out to delay it and even deny some extra zap. But for now, we push forward. Not much of an entry from Aspire, as they're still searching to try and find themselves that easy access.
Yeah, and Nate does go out, and it looks like they are going to be fully committed to trying to contest it. Jouet going to be taking a little bit of damage now, getting ready to target Piano instead of holding in Cigar like they did before. We're going to see Jouet fully fall back into Bathroom, and now Variox trying to put a little bit of pressure from deep in Freezer, takes a decent chunk of damage, and you have Ash trying to push out Clash, but instead goes out in turn. Vario taking another, that's going to be Carol down, and this is going to be a sweep. Isan takes out Shimizu as well. 5v2, it's a collapse. What a disaster, as we see Isan take Kazuto as well. The push has failed. They didn't have the right adaptation for Clash. They catch Vario, but it's too little, too late.
Call it a blitzkrieg, but once one kill was dropped, so many followed that I lost count to a certain degree, and MG Aspire have lost themselves in the path of blood that they have carved. An absolute graveyard dug by Molotov Gang. And those were shots that were not expected, but in the end still delivered. Round contested, and round one yet again. Molotov Gang are now looking at a comfortable 6-5 with match point in their favor. Now, can they scale it yet again for another round, or will it be MG Aspire now having to bring it over to overtime like Cook did earlier, or rather had to keep themselves in the game? Going downstairs, we see a similar lineup we've seen before. Hopefully this time the Goya won't be forced into a 1v1 position, and MG Aspire won't need to go off of random wall bangs with a super shorty to come out victorious. So many aspects have led up to so many different results, especially on a side like this. But again, Molotov Gang, as much as they like sticking to the dock, do a bit more of that Shelly turtle strategy to really stick down your operators and of course gadgets primarily onto site itself. This is a map where MG Aspire have taken it vertical many times before, and they're looking to do that for yet another time.
Yep, this is the chance for MG Aspire to turn it around. They're now on the first floor instead of third floor. No clash in sight, which you really should be bringing a clash on the first floor if we're being 100% honest. That's honestly just a death wish at that point. But regardless, it does look like we're now getting ready for possibly a more aggressive front. Already concussion, or the explosive at least, going out. Deployable shield doesn't go down, but it looks like they're going to be fully pretty well committed, at least initially, possibly taking down this deployable shield. There's the peak. Does it look like it takes down? It does. the deployable shield goes down. That's going to be big, at least for offsetting that VIP player for when it's time to deal with it. The best way to deal with VIP is to at least make it vulnerable out the jump. That's a smart play. Now the top down begins. Not seeing a whole lot of presence coming in from second or first floor from Molotov Gang. And that's going to allow for all players to be up when this vertical begins, which makes things a little bit tenuous. However, Ihan able to catch Carol down. That's going to be a disadvantage coming into MG Aspire, as they really need at least one round to save it into overtime.
Oh, this is not the greatest. We lose out on that ace. Not the way to start us off. MG Aspire would have loved to trade it out for a Zofia as such, but trading it out is the greatest thing that comes to Rainbow Six Siege, as Variox gets taken out, no stims are remnant, and MG Aspire again trying to play off of this top to bottom clear, and so they do. Extra nades trying to push people out of zones that they may find themselves quite pretentious over at. Match point, again, keep it in mind, MG Aspire have a lot on the line. Molotov Gang's just trying to not take up any chances in overtime. They'd rather keep it within regulation, and they're definitely feeling a bit more heated even after that protest. They want to prove that they don't need a skin on Clash to win it all out, but rather just their own strategy and mindset, which is about to be proven in the last minute that is right now underway.
Yeah, and so far they're trying to get the horizontal, but get shut down as Jouet manages to catch Kazuto. This is a big pushback. You got to clear the bar of VIP player. But there's a one-player disadvantage. 3 players remaining. They don't really have the means to do that, but they do manage to catch Isan, which does reduce the site presence. But you still need to get those outside players out, and that's a big blowback as Just manages to take down Zaka. But they do manage to catch Jouet. That's going to be huge coming in from Shimizu. That's going to be a 3rd kill, a 3K. Now up to Just and Aine, who are both now on site. The final push coming in with 23 seconds to go. Shimizu on a 4K, almost an ace, taking Just down, and it's going to be down to the count with Aine being the last one around on bar. It's going to be a tense situation to close it out. The Fuser now starting. There's the walk up, and Aine will be ready to catch it off, but Shimizu looking to find blood, looking to find one. Goes for the hunt with 3 seconds remaining, but can he connect the shots? Hiding in the corner, goes for the Fuser, has to, low on time, and there's the spot. Spots him out. Aine saving the day for Molotov Gang to close it out.
In the last seconds, you leave it and drop it. Information is a key part of this map, and that was proven by the Jackal, who had no clue about the whereabouts of the final player. The man, the myth, the legend, Aine, on that SMG-11, creepy crawling all around bar side, making sure to come out as a jump scare and take you out as the Jackal, while hiding from the gridlock site, not sticking to that plant and allowing the final 3 seconds to come out as the execution. Not the greatest we've seen from MG Aspire, as they do lose out on this final match they are given and handed. MBG continue the reign not only from the previous season, but on today as well, having a very dominant performance, a very rough match, but continue it within regulation and nonetheless. And that's going to be the result for today. We saw some mistakes from both of these teams, and most of these rounds that were won out by a specific team were quite dominant, leaving it to a 3v1, a 4v1, a 5v1. You can call it, but in the end, the rounds weren't as close as the round count necessarily was, but we finish it off with the best of 3s today, and this was the last qualifiers. This was qualifiers number 4 that were delayed from previous week, and with it, we finished them off, and it was absolutely beautiful to do. But again, like all good things, this must come to an end. And with it, thank you everyone for watching, everyone who stopped by. Probably going to be heading over to the Invitational stream as of current, which is an absolute blast as well. But before you do, thank you to the players as well. Thank you to the production, Oho and Rowan in the background, making sure we get the top quality. And thank you, Piercing, for joining along to cast these beautiful matches alongside me.
As always. And with that being said, that's going to be the conclusion. And now we move on to the playoffs. So, with that being said, thank you everyone for watching. And unfortunately, this is going to be my last time from ESA, I do believe, because I can only cast on the weekends. Maybe I can make something happen, but that's going to be the last from me on the ESA. You can always follow me on X at PiercingCV. Hopefully I'll be able to engage with you guys one last time, but if not, that's it from me. Thank you everyone for all the good times, and I'll see you around. Take it easy. I'll see you next time in another league.